Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Yu-Gi-Oh watches over Naruto Uzumaki. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by WINDSTORM16 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Near the border of the Land of Fire and the Land of Sound is the Valley of the End. Home to the site of the final battle between Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha when the latter defected from Konoha. Only to return with the Kikbi no Imko under his control and challenged Hashirama, with their battle having reshaped the landscape. Leading to the creation of the Valley of the End, with statues of Hashirama and Madara being made to serve as a reminder of their battle. Currently, another battle was being fought at the valley, between friends and teammates, Naruto Uzumaki and Satsuki Uchiha. The reason for their fight was due to the fact that Satsuki had attempted to abandon their home village, Konohagakure, in order to join the Snake Sannin, Orochimaru, so she could gain the power needed to kill her brother, Itachi Uchiha. While Naruto had been part of the team sent to bring Satsuki back, refusing to let her get away. At the moment, Naruto had begun using part of the Kikbi's chakra sealed inside him, enough to turn his eyes red and his whiskers to become darker. While Satsuki had black markings covering the left half of her body, showing her curse mark was activated. With their boost in power, both genin were fighting evenly against each other, though they were also starting to feel tired from how long they've been fighting. Why can't you just leave me alone? I chose to leave, I wasn't kidnapped, brainwashed, or whatever you think. I chose to leave. Satsuki shouted, glaring at Naruto with her Sharingan activated, now possessing 3 tomos in both eyes, angry that he wouldn't let her go, that he had to chase after her and get in her way. I already told you, no matter what happens, I'll never give up on you, nor let you run away. Even if I have to beat it into your head. You can either come back willingly or I'll drag you back. Naruto said, refusing to let Satsuki join Orochimaru and just become another one of the snake's hosts. I'm not going back. I need to get stronger to kill Itachi and I can't do that in Konoha. Retorted Satsuki, her last encounter with Itachi still fresh in her mind, how he easily defeated her, knocking her Chidori aside like it was nothing, breaking her wrist and then using Tsukiyomi on her again. No, Satsuki wouldn't get the strength she needed by staying in Konoha. But Orochimaru could give her the power she needs, and once she's learned everything the Sannin can offer, she'll kill him before he can try taking her body. Then once he's dead, she'll hunt down Itachi and finally kill him. If you run now, then you won't ever get stronger, you'll always be weaker than Itachi. Shouted Naruto, with Satsuki's attention snapping towards him, as her eyes widened in anger at what he just said. Satsuki charged towards Naruto and swung her fist at him, only for the blonde to grab her wrist, with the Uchiha proceeding to slam her knee into his chest. With Naruto doubling over, gasping, as the wind was knocked out of him, with Satsuki following up with a spin kick to his head, knocking Naruto aside. Don't you ever say that again. Satsuki growled, refusing to let anyone think she'd always be weaker than Itachi, believing she wouldn't be able to kill him. It's true, and you know it. Do you think Itachi or Orochimaru became as strong as they did by running away to get power somewhere else? They didn't, they trained their entire lives in Konoha to get to where they are, and you can do the same. You could be just as strong as them if you stayed in Konoha, you would even become stronger than they are. Naruto said, with Satsuki scowling in confusion at what he meant. What are you talking about? How could I become stronger than Itachi or Orochimaru by staying in Konoha? Demanded Satsuki, doubting that was possible. Because look at them both. Orochimaru is a Sannin, just like Pervy Sage and Granny. But look at Itachi and how strong he is, along with what he did to Kakashi, and he's not even half as old as Orochimaru. Everything he can do, he learned it in Konoha, and so could you. You could learn even more than he did and everything he can do, not only growing stronger than he is, but learning how he fights. Naruto said, with Satsuki's scowl fading slightly as she began thinking over his words. And look how strong you are already, like during the Chunin exams, you were able to get past Gaara's sand, something only Lee was able to do before, and he had to take off those heavy weights just to do it. You were able to do it after just a month of training, and was even able to get past his sand and sand armor to wound him. You were also able to fight that bastard Aoi too in the land of tea, as well as Dotman in the land of snow. Naruto said. Yeah, but you were still the one to defeat Gaara and Shukaku, you were the one to kill Aoi and break the Raijin. And you were also the one who killed Dotman as well. Retorted Satsuki, having begun feeling insecure about her own strength when Naruto, the supposed dead last, was able to defeat such opponents. I was only able to beat Gaara thanks to Gamabunta, while I was only able to beat Aoi after you already managed to damage his sword. The same with Dot when you damaged his chakra armor's core. Naruto said, with the Uchiha looking at him surprised having believed her Chidori had no effect on the Raijin, but now is hearing she did manage to damage it. You may not think it, Satsuki, but you are strong and you'll keep getting stronger if you really try. But if you run away to Orochimaru, then you won't surpass Itachi or beat him. It'll be Orochimaru that does it because he gave you the power to do it. Do you want that, to beat him because someone gave you the means to do it? Or will you prove that you surpassed them both with your own strength and training that you got on your own? Naruto asked, with Satsuki looking at war with herself as she thought over his words. Satsuki wanted to find and kill Itachi more than anything else, but to do that she needed to get stronger. And she could get that strength from Orochimaru much faster than she ever could in Konoha. But then what would be the point? What would she prove if she gained the power needed to kill Itachi if it came from someone else? She'd finally step out from Itachi's shadow, but then she'd simply be stepping into Orochimaru's. Always being compared to someone else, never being seen as just Satsuki. Except by him. Satsuki thought while looking at Naruto. He always saw her as Satsuki, never the last Uchiha, never as Itachi's little sister, she was always just Satsuki for as long as they've known each other. And now he's saying that she was strong and that she would even surpass Itachi and Orochimaru if she stayed in Konoha to train just like they did before they went rogue. I never did bother going to my clan's jutsu library. Thought Satsuki, knowing the Uchiha clan has a large collection of ninjutsu, jinjutsu, taijutsu, kenjutsu, and bukijutsu scrolls, whether it was from creating them, learning them, copying them, or taking them as spoils of war from other clans during the Warring States era. But she never bothered looking through it, having never wanted to return to the Uchiha compound after the last time, when she was let out of the hospital after that night. And yet here she was, complaining about not being strong enough when she had the means to grow, but didn't take advantage of it. And if that's not enough to convince you, then I'll always be with you every step of the way, helping you get as strong as you need. Even if it's just to be beaten up and knocked around, I'll be there to help you, Satsuki. Said Naruto, with Satsuki looking at him in surprise, not even noticing as her curse mark began receding back to her neck. Fine, I'll go back. Satsuki said, sighing, knowing that if she still left after everything Naruto just said, it'd only make her look more like a whining brat that wasn't getting her way. It also made Satsuki damn her teammate's secret crush's stubbornness and unorthodox charisma. But Satsuki couldn't deny that she was also thankful for it and his refusal to give up on her. Hearing this, Naruto smiled in relief, glad he was able to convince his teammate to come back. And he intended to keep his word and help her with anything she asked of him. Unfortunately, before either genin could move, they were suddenly surrounded by 6 Anbu wearing blank masks. Though all of them seemed to be wearing different uniforms, the only matching thing they all wore were short black, midriff jackets with red straps over the shoulders, along with tipless tantos on their backs. The sight of the Anbu making Naruto and Satsuki tense, given how they were standing around them and didn't seem to show any sign of letting them try leaving. What are you all doing here? Naruto asked warily, while wondering if maybe they'd been sent by Tsunade as a backup team or something. Our master demands your presence, Kikbijinch Kriki. As well as yours, Uchiha, for attempting to join the traitor, Orochimaru. One of the Anbu said blankly, which only made the two tense even more. Well, you can tell the Hokage I'm perfectly fine going back with Naruto. Retorted Satsuki, hoping to see if they'd tell them who they're working for while looking for a chance to escape. You do not have a choice. You shall come with us quietly or we will use force. Another Anbu said as they all reached for their tantos, Naruto and Satsuki, realizing they likely weren't going to get out of this without a fight. However, they soon got another shock, as before any of the Anbu could move to attack either genin, someone suddenly appeared in a burst of speed. The person nearly bisecting 3 of the Anbu with a sword before snapping their head towards the remaining 3. With Naruto and Satsuki being shocked when it seemed as if giant shuriken shot out of the stranger's eye, tearing through 2 of the Anbu, while the last one manages to get out of the way in time. The last Anbu then rushed the stranger, thrusting their tanto right through their chest, only for the Anbu to actually be surprised when they seemingly phased through the stranger. Only to gag when a hand stabbed itself through their chest, grabbing a hold of their heart before ripping it out, with the body sinking into the river with the others. While the whiskered blonde and Ravinette could only look in shock and disturbance at seeing the stranger holding the Anbu's heart in his hand, with them also getting a good look at the individual as well. Seeing they were an adult man with long, spiky black hair that went past their shoulders and had pale skin from what little they could see of it. With him wearing black sandals, black pants with bandages wrapped around his ankles, a black form-fitting high-collared shirt, black gloves, a dark blue robe with a periwinkle sash that held his sword sheath, and an orange mask with black flames, and a single eye hole for his right eye covered his face. That old fool never learns, does he? Perhaps I'll deal with him next. Stated the masked man before dropping the Anbu's heart and turned towards Naruto and Satsuki, making them tense again and regard him warily. Who are you? Questioned Satsuki, neither of them being sure if he was an ally or another enemy. My name is of no consequence, but if you must refer to me as something, call me Tobi. Tobi replied, the two genin noddingly slowly, thinking he was actually an ally since he hasn't attacked them, yet anyway. Okay Tobi. Were you sent to help us or were you just nearby and decided to help? Naruto asked. Neither, I'm afraid. These fools were merely interfering in my business of capturing you, Kikbijinch Kriki. Well you are simply a nice bonus, Satsuki Uchiha. Said Tobi, causing Naruto's and Satsuki's guards to instantly go back up. What do you want with us? Satsuki demanded, seeing this guy wasn't an ally nor wanted to help. Are you with those Akatsuki guys? Said Naruto, wondering if he's part of the Akatsuki group that Itachi and Kisame are part of. Not officially, you could consider me an unofficial member of the Akatsuki. And unlike Itachi and Kisame, I have no intentions of failing to capture you, Uzumaki. Tobi said. The fact you're trying to capture us already makes you an enemy, but working with Itachi means you're my enemy too. Said Satsuki before quickly pulling out and throwing several shuriken at Tobi. The masked man easily deflecting them with his sword or letting them phase through him before launching himself at the two genin. Shadow clone jutsu. Naruto said, making a hand sign before creating dozens of clones that charged at Tobi. With Tobi stopping before ducking under a clone's punch, stabbing it with his sword and destroying it before jumping up and spin kicking another clone when it got close. 4 of the clones then jumped up into the air, throwing multiple kunai at Tobi, who let the weapons phase through him. Before he then grabbed them once they emerged from his body, sending them back at the clones and destroying them. Fire style. Phoenix Age Fire Jutsu. Tobi said, going through hand signs before unleashing dozens of fireballs that destroyed several clones all at once, with the dispelled clones, creating a large cloud of smoke around him. Fire style. Dragon Fire Jutsu. Said Satsuki before releasing a stream of fire, cutting through the smoke and charging straight towards Tobi, with the masked man letting the jutsu hit him. Before Satsuki was shocked when she saw Tobi actually running right through the fire towards her, with the Ravenet quickly ending the jutsu and went to jump away. Only to gasp when Tobi's hand shot out and went to wrap around her neck, only for his hand to phase through her. The Uchiha spotting a kunai phasing through Tobi's head, her eyes widening when she also saw an explosive tag attached to it. Seeing her chance to escape, Satsuki quickly used a substitution jutsu, switching places with a log, just as the kunai passed through Tobi's head. With the explosive tag detonating the moment it did, engulfing the masked man in an explosion. Think that got him? Naruto asked, jumping beside Satsuki while looking at the explosion, having seen Tobi try grabbing her and acted on instinct when he threw the kunai. Having figured that whatever jutsu he used to not be hit by their attacks would keep him from grabbing Satsuki, or the chance that he'd turn tangible when grabbing them. Which would give them a chance to try hitting him instead. Either way, it'd prevent him from grabbing his teammate. I don't know, but this should be something he can't avoid. Said Satsuki before going through hand signs and grabbed her left wrist as lightning flared to life in her hand. Though rather than rush towards where Tobi was, Satsuki instead thrust her hand into the river, sending currents of electricity throughout the water. Hoping she'll be able to electrocute Tobi, either enough to knock him out, kill him, or slow him down enough for them to escape. Clever little moves, there. Tobi stated from behind Naruto and Satsuki, causing their eyes to widen in shock that he got behind them, before Naruto instantly turned around with a kunai to try stabbing him. Only for the weapon to phase through Tobi, like everything else, with Tobi stepping forward and waiting until Naruto had fully gone through him. Before he then spun around, slamming his foot into Naruto's head, sending him bouncing across the river. With Tobi raising his sword, blocking Satsuki's kunai when she tried attacking him from the side, the Uchiha glaring at him with her Sharingan. Such powerful eyes, to now have a fully matured Sharingan at such a young age. But still not as powerful as mine. Said Tobi, looking down at Satsuki, the girl's eyes widening in shock when she saw he also possessed the Sharingan. But the distraction costing her as Tobi redirected her arm before slamming his fist into her stomach, the Ravenet gagging as the air was knocked out of her before she was sent flying through the air. Luckily, Naruto managed to catch her before she hit the water. Are you alright, Satsuki? Naruto asked, while not taking his eyes off of Tobi in case he tried attacking again. I'm fine gasped Satsuki as she stood up, breathing heavily from the punch before looking Tobi with narrowed eyes. How do you have the Sharingan? Satsuki demanded, wanting to know how Tobi had the Sharingan. Isn't it obvious? You and I both come from the same clan. Tobi revealed, much to Naruto's and Satsuki's shock. That's impossible. Itachi killed everyone else, I was the only left alive. Yelled Satsuki, shaking off her shock and glared at Tobi, believing he must have stolen the Sharingan from one of her clansmen. And do you truly believe that Itachi, for as gifted and powerful as he was for his age, could have killed off the entire Uchiha clan by himself? Said Tobi, causing the younger Uchiha to go completely still. What the hell are you saying, asshole? said Naruto, glaring at Tobi, seeing how Satsuki was being affected by his words. I'm saying, I was there that night. While Itachi was wiping out the majority of the Uchiha clan, I was dealing with a military police force. And after I waited for him to finish until only you were left, Satsuki, his beloved little sister and the one he did everything to protect. Tobi said, with Satsuki shaking in rage and anger at his words, feeling her curse seal pulsing in response to her emotions. Shut up. Itachi didn't love me, he didn't love anyone but himself. He took away everything I had just to test his power. And after I kill you, he's next. Satsuki shouted, glaring hatefully at Tobi for having a part in her clan's destruction. But don't you wish to know the truth of why our clan was wiped out? Why Itachi had been ordered by Konoha's higher-ups to eliminate the Uchiha clan or be forced to watch them all die anyway, including you? Questioned Tobi, making both Naruto and Satsuki both freeze at his words. What are you talking about? The old man would never do that. Naruto demanded, refusing to believe the Sandaime would ever order an entire clan to be wiped out. Wouldn't he though? After all, look at your own life, Naruto. Growing up alone, not knowing why you were hated, never knowing your own parents, and having your head filled with ideas of becoming Hokage and forgiving everything that was done to you, no matter what. The Sandaime was not as kind as you may believe. After all, in the defense of one's village, there are no lines in ninja won't cross. Even more so, when that ninja is the cage of said village. Tobi said, as if reading Naruto's mind, making the whiskered blonde tense up. What do you mean Itachi was ordered? Said Satsuki, shaking at the idea Itachi had been ordered to wipe out the Uchiha clan. It's exactly as I said, Itachi was given a choice, either he would eliminate the Uchiha clan or die alongside them all, including you. He chose the former as it meant that while he would stain his hands with his own family's blood, you would get to live. All of this was done to prevent the Uchiha clan from initiating a coup d'etat. Revealed Tobi, much to their shock before Satsuki glared at him. My parents would never agree to a coup. Satsuki retorted, knowing her parents were loyal to the village. Wouldn't they? It's common knowledge that the Sharingan is capable of controlling the Kyuubi, so it was to the Uchiha clan that people looked at with suspicions. The village blamed the Uchiha for the attack and so they sent them to the outskirts of the village where they could keep a better eye on them. Your parents were no different, despite their years of service and protecting Konoha, all of it meant nothing. Instead, they were seen as enemies, watched for any sign of treason, all while the Uchiha knew that at any moment they could be attacked by their so-called allies. It'd push anyone to do what they believe is necessary to protect themselves and those they love. Those in charge of the village's government had agreed to keep the clan under observation, the only one who objected was the Sandaime Hokage. And the one who spied on the Uchiha and reported their actions, the only one who wouldn't be suspected by meeting with the Hokage multiple times or vanishing without warning. Tobi explained, with Satsuki shaking at the realization. Itachi was a spy. Said Satsuki, not believing her brother had been a spy for Konoha. But the old man didn't agree to it. That means it wasn't his decision to have Itachi wipe them out. Naruto said, pleased to know the Sandaime didn't have any part in ordering Itachi to kill his and Satsuki's family. Yet he still made no attempt to stop it. He may not have given the order, but the Sandaime did nothing to prevent it. Retorted Tobi, causing the Uzumaki to fall silent. Itachi had eventually been ordered to wipe out the Uchiha clan, the only ones that knew the truth were Kohari Utatane, Hamura Midokado, Danzum Shimura and the Sandaime Hokage. Itachi grew up to witness the horrors of the Third Ninja War, the death that came with such fighting, something that made him wish to never experience such a thing again. Willing to do anything to ensure peace was kept, even spying on his own clan. Your father was the mastermind behind the coup, it was why he had Itachi join the Anbu, to have him act as a spy for the clan. But Itachi had always been loyal to Konoha and wanted to do what was best for it as a whole. It was this trait that the Konoha Council and Danzum exploited, having Itachi spy on the Uchiha clan for them instead. When the Hokage was unable to come to a peaceful negotiation, the elders decided to simply eliminate them all. Leaving Itachi with an impossible task, either let his clan go through with the coup, causing the destabilization of their village, deaths of countless innocent people, as well as incite neighboring nations to invade them, potentially starting the Fourth Shinobi World War. Or stain his hands with the blood of his own clan and family, in order to prevent a war and the numerous casualties that would come from it. Tobi said, with Satsuki shaking at all this information. And how are you part of all this? Naruto demanded while glaring at the masked Uchiha. I had my own issues with Konoha and the Uchiha clan, desiring my own vengeance against them for past transactions, and had infiltrated the village to get it. Itachi was the only one to know I was still alive and found me, where he offered me a different agreement. He'd help me extinguish the Uchiha clan in exchange for sparing the village, a deal I agreed to. And so, Itachi and I attacked that night, wiping out the entire Uchiha clan, until only you were left. But I underestimated one thing about Itachi, he could kill his mother, his father, even his lover, but the one person he could never hurt or think of killing was the one he loved most, his little sister. Revealed Tobi, the younger Uchiha, looking numb at hearing this. Once the deed was done, Itachi and I went our separate ways, me leaving the village as promised and Itachi reporting his success to the Hokage. Along with asking that he kept you safe from harm while threatening to leak the village's intelligence to unallied nations, otherwise. That is the truth, everything Itachi did was for the good of the village and most of all, to ensure you were safe, Satsuki. Tobi said, ending his story, well neither Naruto or Satsuki were sure what to think of any of this. How do I know any of that is true? Demanded Satsuki, desperate to hold on to her belief of Itachi being a heartless monster. Merely look around you at these Anbu, members of supposedly disbanded branch known as the Foundation, which Dansum himself controls. He would have preferred it if all Uchiha had died that night, including you, seeing all of them as a threat to Konoha to be eliminated. Despite how it was him that prevented the Uchiha from assisting and fighting against the Kikbi. He pushed for them to be moved to the outskirts of the village, and it was him that gave Itachi the ultimatum to either wipe out the Uchiha clan or watch them all die. He saw an opportunity to not only get the Kikbi Jinchuriki under his control, but Itachi as well. After all, well he wouldn't be able to kill you, he could use you as a hostage to put a collar around Itachi's neck once more. Said Tobi, with Satsuki breathing heavily as she tried processing everything she just heard. But you could still have your revenge, Satsuki, on the ones truly responsible for your clan's destruction. Join me, join the Akatsuki, and you will gain power unlike anything you could dream of, greater than any training from Orochimaru. Stand at my side and you will get power, revenge, and so much more. Tobi offered, having always intended to replace Itachi with Satsuki, knowing Itachi would never truly be loyal to the Akatsuki and it being a matter of time before he succumbs to his illness. Satsuki would never join you. You already admitted that you helped wipe out her clan. Naruto yelled, glaring at the masked Uchiha, with Tobi narrowing his eyes at the Uzumaki. You seem to have a habit of butting in where you aren't needed. A rather annoying habit that you inherited from your parents. Tobi said, the whiskered blonde freezing at his words. What did you just say? Naruto said lowly, honestly hoping he heard him wrong. Yes. Did I forget to mention that? Who do you think is the reason they're dead, the reason the Kikbi attacked that night, the reason you became a Jinchuriki? I did that as well. Revealed Tobi, Naruto's eyes widening at hearing this before gritting his teeth as red chakra began emitting off of him. You're the reason, Naruto muttered as his body shook before the red chakra started bubbling and covering his body. As his nails extended into claws, his canines elongated and his eyes turned blood red with slit pupils before the red chakra began transforming around him. With long ears emerging from the chakra-rounded head and a single tail forming behind him, with a whiskered blonde going down to his hands and feet. I'm gonna kill you. Said Naruto before vanishing in a burst of speed, appearing right in front of Tobi with his clawed hand held up before bringing it down on the Uchiha to tear him apart. With Tobi narrowing his eyes at the enraged Jinchuriki, flipping his sword into a reverse grip before waiting until Naruto was right in front of him. Ducking underneath Naruto's claw strike, Tobi rushed past Naruto, slashing him across the side with his blade, the Uzumaki grunting at the attack. Though Naruto immediately flipping in the air and landing on top of the water before thrusting his arm forward, launching the chakra cloak's arm at Tobi. Only for the arm to phase through the masked Uchiha before Tobi jumped back, away from the arm and turned around just as Satsuki was about to drive a Chidori through his heart. Grabbing the Ravenette's wrist and deflecting the attack to the side, with Satsuki glaring murderously at him with black markings covering the left side of her body. Such a shame that you chose to reject my offer. You would have risen higher than ever before, now you'll fall like everyone else. Stated Tobi, seeing that Satsuki wouldn't be accepting the chance to join him. You admitted to helping and slaughtering my clan, tried manipulating me, and that you're the reason Naruto lost his family too. The only thing I want is your head. Satsuki hissed before her other hand shot up to stab a kunai into Tobi's throat, only for him to turn intangible again, which allowed Satsuki to move away as she went through hand signs. Fire style. Phoenix Age Fire Jutsu. Said Satsuki, unleashing multiple fireballs at Tobi, the older Uchiha quickly jumping out of the way of the fireballs. Before raising his sword and blocking another claw strike from Naruto, the Uzumaki slashing at Tobi repeatedly only for his attacks to be blocked. With Tobi then jumping back when Naruto's chakra cloak's tail lashed out at him. Well then, if you don't intend to join me, Satsuki, it seems I have no reason to continue this farce. Wood style. Underground Roots Jutsu. Tobi said, making a hand sign, shocking Naruto and Satsuki, only to cry out when large roots burst up from the ground and wrapped around the two genin, restraining them and cutting off their chakra, with Naruto's chakra cloak and Satsuki's marking disappearing. But even if you won't join me, your eyes will still be put to use along with the rest of my spares. Well, I'll have the kick be extracted from you soon enough," stated Tobi before he began approaching the bound genin, with the two struggling to escape their restraints. Lightning style. Lightning beast tracking fang. Though before Tobi could reach them, he jumped out of the way just as a hound lightning rushed towards him, before continuing onward towards Naruto and Satsuki. But rather than attack the genin, the hound ripped apart the roots restraining them. Before the two found themselves being grabbed and suddenly moved back to dry land, looking in surprise to see Kakashi. "Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said in shock, not expecting to see their genin instructor arrive. "Looks like I arrived just in time, and I can see you completed the mission, good job, Naruto," said Kakashi with an eye smile, before looking at Satsuki when she shoved his hand away and glared at him. Did you know Itachi had been ordered to massacre my clan?" Satsuki demanded, unable to help herself, having a hard time wondering who she could even trust in Konoha anymore, the only one that Satsuki knew she could trust being Naruto. With Kakashi frowning at her words, only to begin thinking back to his time working with Itachi and Anbu during the time they watched the Uchiha clan. Along with how distant and isolated Itachi became leading up to the massacre. Having believed the pressure became too much and he finally snapped. Kakashi had felt responsible for not being a better influence on Itachi, believing he could have done more to help him. "We'll discuss this back at the village with Tsunade-sama. For now, though, leave this one to me," said Kakashi, stepping forward and narrowing his eyes at Tobi. "Kakashi, it's been a while," Tobi stated, narrowing his eyes at the genin, with Kakashi frowning at this. "We've met before?" questioned Kakashi, not having any memory of meeting this person. "Long ago, in another life, but we're both different people. Just know, I've been looking forward to this reunion," said Tobi while holding his sword tightly. "Well, aren't you the mysterious type? Though, I'm afraid I don't remember meeting someone like you before. But if it was in another life, I'll be sending you off to your next one, shortly," Kakashi said, raising his headband and revealing his Sharingan. Before the genin quickly pulled out a kunai and blocked Tobi's sword when he appeared right in front of him, momentarily surprised to see the masked Uchiha Sharingan. "That's my line," Tobi retorted before Kakashi pushed him back and rushed him. Kakashi swung his kunai against Tobi's sword, twisting it around the blade and thrust it towards the Uchiha's head. Only for Tobi to bend backwards dodging the stab before placing his hand on the water's surface and slamming his foot into Kakashi's chest, knocking him back. "Water style. Water bullet jutsu," Kakashi said, going through hand signs before expelling a large blast of water at Tobi. "Fire style. Grand fireball jutsu," said Tobi, going through hand signs as well and releasing a massive fireball. With the attacks colliding against each other, cancelling each other out and creating a large amount of steam that began covering the valley. The copy ninja landed in the steam, looking around warily for any sign of Tobi, before quickly raising his arm blocking a spin kick from Tobi. Kakashi then grabbed Tobi's leg and pulled him close to punch him in the face. Only to be surprised when he suddenly lost his grip on Tobi's leg and his fist phased right through him. Intangibility. What kind of jutsu is that? Thought Kakashi, having never seen a jutsu that turns the user intangible. Before his feet were suddenly knocked out from under him as Tobi landed in crouch and kicked Kakashi's legs out from under him. With the masked Uchiha bringing his sword down on Kakashi to bisect him, only for Kakashi to vanish in a burst of smoke and be replaced by a chopped log. "Water style. Water dragon jutsu," Kakashi said near the waterfall, before the water began swirling around him and transformed into a gigantic serpentine dragon with yellow eyes, the dragon roaring before charging at Tobi. "You brought your dragon, now meet mine. Wood style. Wood dragon jutsu," said Tobi, going through hand signs before an equally massive wooden dragon burst out up from the river and rushed towards Kakashi's water dragon. "He has Mokuton too," thought Kakashi in disbelief that he somehow possessed the Mokuton as well. Only to see the wood dragon smashing through his water dragon and continuing on towards him, with Kakashi jumping up to the middle of the waterfall. "Shadow clone jutsu," said Kakashi, creating a single clone before they both began going through hand signs, with lightning soon flaring to life in their opposite hands. "Lightning transmission," Kakashi and his clone shouted as their Rakuris connected together forming a sharp cord of lightning. Before the two jumped up into the air just as the wood dragon reached them, the genin and his clone using their lightning transmission to slice right through the dragon. Seeing this, Tobi jumped on top of his wood dragon and rushed towards Kakashi and his clone, going through hand signs. "Wood style. Cutting jutsu," Tobi said before grabbing a wooden spike that emerged from his arm and threw it straight at Kakashi's clone, making another hand sign once it hit the clone, causing wooden spikes to shoot out of its body. The sight forcing Kakashi to move away as the spikes came close to impaling him, only to gasp when Tobi drove his sword through his chest as they fell back down towards the river. "It looks like you'll be the one heading off to your next life, Kakashi," stated Tobi, only for his eyes to widen and grunt when Kakashi suddenly exploded in a burst of electricity, shocking the masked Uchiha. Damn. He switched placed with a lightning style. Shadow clone. Tobi thought, feeling his body be electrocuted, unable to avoid the attack after turning tangible. And that's my line, Rikiri, said Kakashi, shooting up out of the water and driving his lightning-covered hand through Tobi's chest, the Uchiha gasping in pain as his eyes widened in disbelief. Edgy, guess you really live up to your name friend killer. Tobi muttered before his body went limp, while the copy ninja frowned at his word. What does that mean? Kakashi thought, unsure what Tobi meant by that, only for the Jinin's eyes to widen in shock when a blade shot through his chest, inches from his heart. Too bad for you, I'm not that easy to kill, stated Tobi as he appeared behind, while the one Kakashi stabbed vanished into thin air. Gijan Jinjutsu, muttered Kakashi, falling to his hands and knees as Tobi walked around him. Yes, it was Jinjutsu, in a way. But not on you, one cast on reality itself. But at a cost. Tobi said, moving his mask to the side, showing his left eye turned pale white as he lost one of his Sharingan. But lucky for me, I have the perfect replacement. Tobi added as before Kakashi could react, his hand shot out and ripped his Sharingan eye, the Jinnin crying out and clutched his now empty eye socket. Only to be silenced when Tobi wrapped his hand around his throat and threw him to the other side of the river, where he crashed into a tree before falling to the ground. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto shouted in horror at seeing Kakashi be stabbed and then having his eye ripped out, Satsuki being shocked and horrified as well before glaring at Tobi. You're gonna pay for that, said Satsuki, as despite her current misgivings with Konoha, she wouldn't let Tobi get away with this. I've long since paid a price, now it's time I started taking back what was mine, said Tobi as he removed his now blind eye and implanted Kakashi's Sharingan, while also punching an eye hole through the left side of his mask before covering his face again, before turning towards the genin. Now where were we? Tobi said, while Naruto and Satsuki both glared at him in pure anger at what he's done. Before Naruto roared as his chakra cloak returned, only this time three tails emerged behind him, vanishing in a burst of speed, reappearing right in front of Tobi. Slashing at the masked Uchiha repeatedly, with each of his attacks either phasing through him or being dodged. With Tobi's hand shooting out to wrap around Naruto's neck, only for the uzumaki to swing his claws at Tobi's chest, causing him to phase through the Uchiha. With Naruto then instantly charging through Tobi towards the other side of the river, skidding to a stop and turning around, glaring at the masked Uchiha. Before he then held out his hand, forming a Rasengan in his hand that immediately turned dark purple as it mixed with the Kikbi's chakra. The Rasengan. The Yondaime tried using that on me as well, and you'll fail just as he did, stated Tobi, only to hear the sound of 1,000 birds chirping. Turning towards Satsuki, Tobi saw the younger Uchiha had now transformed as well, entering her curse-mark second stage. With Satsuki's skin turning pale gray, her sclera turning black, hair growing longer and turning snow white, before two bat-like wings burst out of her back with claw-like extensions at the top of them. While in her hand was a Chidori, only the lightning had turned mostly black with a white center. Before Naruto and Satsuki launched themselves at Tobi, thrusting both of their attacks towards him. Rasengan. Chidori. Tobi narrowed his eyes at the sight of the two powerful attacks coming straight at him, before sighing and shaking his head. It's truly a shame to snuff out such potential. They're merely unfortunate to be obstacles for my plans, Tobi thought, knowing Naruto and Satsuki likely would have grown to become powerful ninja. Waiting until the last moment, Tobi jumped out of the way, resulting in Naruto's and Satsuki's attacks colliding against each other. Kamui, said Tobi, creating a vortex between Naruto and Satsuki to suck them both into his Kamui dimension along with their attacks, knowing it'll be enough to knock them out and leave them trapped. Only to grit his teeth as he began having trouble maintaining the Kamui as the Rasengan and Chidori collided together, unleashing a large amount of chakra around them. With the Kikbi's chakra and natural energy absorbed by the curse seal only making it more difficult. Need to hurry before they end up killing each other, thought Tobi, refusing to lose the Kikbi by having its Jinchuriki die, before his eyes widened when a large sphere of chakra began forming around the two genin. But the sphere soon beginning to distort and collapse in on itself due to his Kamui still trying to suck them inside. No. Tobi shouted, knowing if that sphere was absorbed into his Kamui as well, it'd potentially kill the Jinchuriki, before he quickly cut off his Kamui, hoping he stopped it in time. Though his eyes widened again as the sphere continued collapsing in on itself until it was completely gone. But before Tobi could do anything, he screamed in pain and clutched his eyes before an explosion erupted from the center point of the collapsed sphere, engulfing the masked Uchiha. With Tobi being horrified when he felt his body being incinerated by the explosion. It's still inside, Tobi thought in horror, realizing the explosion wasn't only in the real world but also inside his Kamui dimension, leaving him no chance to avoid it. The masked Uchiha only having a moment to scream in pure agony as his body was destroyed before being silenced as he was reduced to ash. But the explosion soon dissipating, revealing nothing left of Tobi, while Naruto and Satsuki were nowhere in sight. Later unknown location. Naruto and Satsuki both groaned as they began waking up, with their eyes fluttering open, only for them to find themselves in an unfamiliar room. Before the two looked around, stopping when they saw each other lying in a bed next their own. "Hey, glad to see you're alright," Naruto said, smiling in relief that the Ravenet was fine. "Yeah, glad to see you're still alive too. But where are we? And why do I feel energized?" questioned Satsuki, sitting up and looked around the room while feeling surprisingly good, better than she's ever felt before. "Same, I feel like I could take Shikaku by myself," said Naruto with a grin, only to flinch when Satsuki reached over and smacked him. "Focus more on figuring out where we are at the moment, rather than fighting a bitch," said Satsuki, before the two tensed when the door opened up, with a young woman and a strange creature walking, or floating, in. But the creature resembling an orange ball with large, solid blue eyes, two small hearts on its cheeks and a bigger heart on its forehead. Along with having two sets of wings, a large set of pink wings on top of its body, and a smaller pair of purple wings at the bottom. "Ah. You're both awake already?" said the girl in surprise, before smiling at the two genin. Yeah, we are. Who are you exactly, and what is that thing?" Satsuki asked, looking at them warily and in confusion. "She's not a thing. This is Happy Lover, my capsule monster. And I'm the resident healer of Haven Village," said the healer, looking at Satsuki sternly, while Happy Lover smiled and waved one of her wings, with the Uchiha unable to help but wave back. "Haven Village? Is that in the Land of Fire? And what's a capsule monster?" questioned Naruto, having never heard of any place called Haven Village. "I'm afraid I've never heard of a place called the Land of Fire. As for capsule monsters, the chief can explain all that to you and answer any other questions you may have, since he wanted to speak with you both when you woke up. But first you'll want to get dressed, there are some clothes in the cabinet there, since your old ones were beyond repair," said the healer, motioning to the cabinet on the other side of the room before she and Happy Lover left the room. Looking at each other, Naruto and Satsuki both got out of bed, only for the Uzumaki blush brightly seeing Satsuki in nothing but her black lingerie. The whiskered blonde unable to help but look her up and down, noticing her underwear also had purple lace and showed off her developing figure and C-cup breasts nicely. "So sorry," Naruto said before turning around, making Satsuki raise a brow at him. "Sorry for what?" Satsuki asked, wondering why he's apologizing, uncaring about their current state of undress. Why yo your J Juju just in why yo your underwear," said Naruto. "So? You're just in boxers and you don't see me freaking out," said Satsuki, looking Naruto up and down, admitting he did look good. "And is it really that big of a deal? You transform into a naked girl with your sexy jutsu," Satsuki added, crossing her arms under her bust. "Why yeah, boo," but said Naruto, only for Satsuki to grab his shoulder and turn him around to face her. "But nothing. Now stop being a baby and let's get dressed so we can go get some answers," Satsuki said before going over to the cabinet, with Naruto following her after taking a few moments to calm down and doing his best to avoid looking at Satsuki's figure. Opening the cabinet, the Uzumaki and Uchiha found a few sets of clothes inside before grabbing some and began getting dressed. "So how are you really feeling after all that?" Naruto asked, looking at Satsuki in worry at how she was after everything Tobi told them. "You mean about the fact that my brother was ordered to kill off our entire clan just so I could live? The fact the man responsible for forcing the ultimatum on him is still alive? That the same man intended to capture both of us to use as his own pawns? And that the real reason he didn't kill me was just so I could kill him one day? And that the same village we were both a part of pushed my clan so far they were going to stage a coup after having enough, only to be slaughtered for it? How do you think I'm feeling?" said Satsuki, snapping at the Uzumaki as her Sharingan activated before transforming into 3 red intersecting ellipses, making Naruto wince and look away. "Alright. I'm really sorry Satsuki," muttered Naruto, unsure what else to say, the Ravenet sighing and shaking her head as her Sharingan deactivated, unaware of the transformation it just went through. No, I should be sorry. You're literally the only person that never once lied to me and refused to leave me, even after I gave you every reason to do so. And I should also be asking if you're alright, since I'm not the only one who lost something to that bastard. How are you feeling?" knowing that he said Satsuki, with Naruto sighing in response. "Honestly, I don't know what I'm feeling. I was angry and I still am, learning he was responsible for my parents dying and the Kikbi attack. But it's hard, as even if I know he was the one who killed them, they're still just faceless people I don't know. And did he mean he personally killed them or were they just ones that died as a result of the Kikbi attack? Naruto replied before looking at Satsuki when she put a hand on his shoulder. Well, with any luck, that explosion our attacks caused might have killed him for good. Satsuki stated, wanting to believe Tobi was dead, that they both got their revenge against him. Even how it was him causing the Kikbi attack that led to her clan being isolated and discriminated against, leading to them planning a coup, all of which lead up to the massacre. So while the elders may have given the order and Itachi carried it out, Tobi was the one behind it all. Yeah, I hope it hurt too. Naruto muttered darkly, hoping Tobi suffered before dying. The two soon finished getting dressed in their new clothes and looked each other over. But Satsuki, now wearing a navy blue turtleneck with a silver cross design at the top, a short black skirt with navy blue spandex short shorts underneath, long black stockings, and brown leather flats. Along with tying her hair up in a two-side-up hairstyle, which consists of part of her hair being made into twin tails tied with black ribbons, while the majority hangs loose. While Naruto was wearing black, hooded jacket left unzipped, with short sleeves, gold buttons, and a checkered pattern at the hem, a burnt orange t-shirt with a v-neck, black fingerless gloves, black jeans and black high-top boots. Definitely looks better than the jumpsuit. Satsuki thought, admiring how her friend looked in the new clothes. Satsuki looks really pretty in that. Thought Naruto, blushing lightly the Ravenette's appearance and new outfit. Before the two shook their heads and exited the room, knowing they still had the village chief to meet and get some answers. Later. After meeting with the healer again, Naruto and Satsuki were taken to the village chief's home, with the two genin taking the chance to take in the side of Haven Village. Seeing how it seemed to have a mix of old-style buildings and technology, some of which looked similar to things they saw in the land of Snow Spring. Along with seeing plenty more of the strange capsule monsters wandering around with people. With it not being long before they arrived at the chief's home and went inside, finding an elderly-looking man in another room sitting behind a desk. Ah, our new visitors. Please sit. I am the leader of Haven Village. Introduced the chief, with Naruto and Satsuki sitting across from him. Nice to meet you. I'm Naruto Uzumaki and this is my friend Satsuki Uchiha. Naruto replied, the Ravenette nodding in response. The healer said you could tell us more about where we are. Along with telling us about what those capsule monsters are. Said Satsuki while crossing her arms. She was right. Well, I'm afraid I have no answers as to where you both originally came from or how it is you arrived here. I can tell you that you both are now in the world of capsule monsters. The chief replied, which only confused the two genin. World of capsule monsters? What kind of name is that? Questioned Naruto, wondering who'd name a planet like that. Perhaps it's not the most expected of names, but it's the one everyone has called it for as long as we can remember. Since it's also been far longer that we've lived alongside the capsule monsters, which I'm sure you've seen for yourself around the village, as well as the healer's happy lover which assisted in healing you both. Said the chief, with Naruto and Satsuki nodding in response. No one truly knows where or how the capsule monsters came into existence, only that they've been around much longer than we have. They come in many different shapes, sizes, species, and genders, and possess unique and powerful abilities. Some capsule monsters are rather benevolent and assist humans whenever they can, others prefer to live in solitude but will offer assistance should they receive something in return, and others prove to be incredibly dangerous. But as time passed, we've learned how to tame capsule monsters, I should say, using these, our capsule shooters. The chief explained before pulling out a strange-looking gold gauntlet with a red gem on it, along with blue and red markings. With Naruto and Satsuki looking at it in surprise and amazement, along with noticing how it seems like something could be launched out of it. I take it that you can somehow fire capsule monsters out of these things? Satsuki asked rhetorically, with the chief nodding in response. That's correct. You see, capsule monsters enter a hibernative state where they transform into large stone capsules, hence the name. When they're in such a state, when a person touches the capsule, they'll awaken the monsters within, causing them to imprint on the person who touched it and bond with them, with the capsule monsters fighting alongside them. And when they're not battling, they will transform into much smaller capsules, returning to their slumber. And when they're loaded into a capsule shooter and fired, they will awaken once more, though in certain cases the more powerful a monster is, they will require resting periods in order to recover their strength, resulting in a gold capsule turning silver. It is also possible to capture capsule monsters that are awake, either by defeating them in battle, then absorbing them into the capsule shooter, turning them into a capsule, or by earning their trust and respect. Explained the chief, much to the genin's shock and amazement. Whoa, that sounds amazing. Said Naruto, with Satsuki nodding in agreement. Yeah, it's like being able to get all kinds of different summoning contracts at once. Satsuki stated, with the chief nodding in agreement. Yes, it's certainly amazing to newcomers to learn about capsule monsters. Now I'm afraid there is one last issue we must discuss. The chief said gravely, making Naruto and Satsuki regard him warily. What is it? Questioned Satsuki. You see, our village has recently suffered a drought due to the nearby river having suddenly dried up completely. And everyone we've sent upstream to investigate what's happened hasn't returned. So, well, you're free to stay the night, you will need to leave in the morning as we don't have the resources to accommodate you long term. Explained the chief with a downcast expression, with Naruto and Satsuki frowning at this but nodded in understanding. Okay, thank you for the offer and we'll make sure to head out first thing in the morning. Naruto said, with the chief nodding in response. Thank you and I apologize for not being able to do much. But the least I can do is give you both these. The chief said before going over to a bookshelf and grabbing a large box, which he set on his desk. Opening it up showed 2 capsule shooters, along with silver belts which Naruto and Satsuki guessed were for holding capsule monsters. Please, take these capsule shooters, so at the very least if you both locate any capsule monsters, you'll have a chance to try capturing them, ensuring neither of you will be defenseless. Said the chief, surprising them before nodding in thanks as they took the capsule shooters, strapping them to their left arms and attaching the belts around their waists. Thank you for the help and giving us these. You've done more than enough despite the situation you're all in. Satsuki replied with a short bow, with Naruto doing the same. The 2 genin then exited the chief's home and headed towards their temporary residence, all while wondering what exactly this world had in store for them. The next day, Naruto and Satsuki left Haven Village after thanking the healer and her happy lover for helping them, along with the chief for the answers he gave them and the capsule shooters. So, what exactly do we do now? Satsuki asked while looking at Naruto, wondering what they should do now in this new and strange world. The Uchiha feeling they should first see about trying to get some money, doubting their own would be any good here. And then finding some place where they would be able to get a map of the land so they'll have a better idea of where they are and the various locations. But she wanted to see if Naruto had any ideas for what they should do before they make any final decisions. Though when she saw the whiskered blonde looking back to Haven Village and then at where the river used to be, she had an idea of what he wanted to do. You want to see what's causing the drought and if we can fix it. Stated Satsuki, knowing her friend Crush never could help himself in wanting to help others. You heard what the chief said, the river just suddenly dries up and everyone they send to investigate doesn't come back. Not to mention, with these capsule monsters everywhere, we both know whatever's happening isn't natural. We could go and check for ourselves to see what happened since it's the least we can do after they helped us, despite having no reason to. Naruto replied, wanting to try and do something to help the village with their drought. But Satsuki frowning at his words, looking back at the village and the dried up river, knowing he had a point. The chief and healer had no reason to help them, given their own problems, yet they still did. Letting them stay and recover, telling them about this world they're now in, as well as giving them capsule shooters. Finding the source of the drought and fixing it was the least they could do to help them. Alright, we'll go investigate what's causing the drought, but we'll do it carefully. If there are capsule monsters involved, then we need to watch out, as there's no telling how many there could be or how strong they are. Said Satsuki as the Uzumaki grinned and nodded in agreement. Great. Then let's get going. Naruto said, happy that Satsuki agreed that they should investigate the drought and fix the problem. Now having an idea of where to go next, the Uzumaki and Uchiha began making their way upstream to find out what was causing the drought. With them also keeping an eye out for any capsules they could awaken, knowing it'd be good to capture any capsule monsters they'd find. It wasn't long before Naruto and Satsuki entered a canyon, with them noticing a small trickle of water in the riverbed, showing they were getting close to whatever was blocking the river. But before they could continue onward, they immediately jumped out of the way of a giant fireball launched at them. Where did that come from? Naruto asked in surprise at the sudden fireball, even more so when he saw it was powerful enough to incinerate the path they were on and superheat the rock. The same thing that caused the drought, I'm guessing. Look. Satsuki said, pointing down in the riverbed, with Naruto looking only to be further surprised at what they saw. Seeing it was a giant capsule monster with green skin, 2 legs with claws, a round body covered in what looked like blue-gray armor with spikes around it, blue wings coming out of it, a green tail, 3 long necks with spikes along them, and 3 skull-like heads with solid red eyes and mouths filled with razor-sharp teeth. What is that thing? Naruto exclaimed in disbelief at the dragon-like capsule monster. Before they saw the capsule shooters start lighting up, confusing the 2 genin, only for holographic screens to emerge from the red gems. With them lining up over the monster and began displaying information about it. Yamadron. Dragon. This monster has 3 fire-breathing heads and can form a sea of blazing flames, strong enough to melt stone. That's handy. Satsuki muttered, seeing their capsule shooters also seemed to show them information about different monsters they encounter. The 2 were forced to jump out of the way again when the Yamadron roared and charged at them. Slamming its body into the canyon wall, causing the pathway to begin breaking apart as Naruto jumped up into the air before making a hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto said, creating a dozen shadow clones with all of them pulling out kunai and shuriken as they dove down towards the three-headed dragon. The clones throwing their shuriken, only for them to deflect it off of Yamadron's body, though it did result in the dragon's attention turning towards them. Roaring again, Yamadron unleashed torrents of flames from all three of its mouths. With the clones' eyes widening at the sight of the flames before they began jumping off each other to avoid them. A few of the clones managing to avoid being hit by the flames before they landed on top of Yamadron and began attacking it. Only to soon find out its skin was a lot tougher than they thought before Yamadron began thrashing around, slamming its body into the ground and walls destroying the clones. Fire style. Phoenix Age Fire Jutsu. Said Satsuki as she went through some hand signs before releasing multiple fireballs at Yamadron, with the dragon roaring as the fireballs hit it before opening its mouths. "Eat these, you overgrown gecko," Naruto said, pulling out multiple kunai with explosive tags and threw them into all three of Yamadron's mouths just as it was about to unleash its flames. Only to end up triggering the tags, resulting in several explosions going off inside its mouths, causing Yamadron to stumble back. "Okay, now let's see if this'll end it. Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu," Satsuki said, going through hand signs while inhaling deeply before unleashing a massive fireball at Yamadron to incinerate it. But the fireball hitting the capsule monster and engulfing it, giving the genin hope that they managed to defeat it. Before, suddenly Satsuki's fireball was overpowered as Yamadron unleashed its own fire, consuming Satsuki's jutsu as the flames rushed towards them. "Shadow Clone Jutsu," said Naruto as he created dozens of clones to form a wall between him and Satsuki and the fire, giving them time to get out of the way as his clones were incinerated. Though they were then forced to quickly use a substitution jutsu when they heard another roar above them, switching places with pieces of rubble. Their eyes widening when they saw another dragon had dove down from the sky, biting down on the rubble they switched with, shattering them. But the second dragon being a long, serpentine one covered in bronze scales, matching colored wings, long, bony arms with 3 claws, bony hindlegs with 3 claws in the front and a single on the back of its legs, and solid green eyes. "Another one." Satsuki exclaimed in disbelief that they now had to deal with a second dragon before their capsule shooters lit up again, with a screen appearing and overlapping the second dragon. Kaiser Dragon. Dragon. The emperor of all dragons has bat-like wings and huge pride. Befitting its status, its attacks are powerful. Naruto and Satsuki were forced to get out of the way when Kaiser Dragon charged at them, only for Satsuki to be shocked when Naruto ran up the side of the canyon. Before he jumped off and landed on top of Kaiser Dragon. "Are you crazy?" Satsuki shouted in disbelief that he'd do something as stupid as get on top of the dragon. "Just trust me." Multi-shadow clone jutsu, said Naruto as he created dozens of clones again, all of them grabbing onto Kaiser Dragon and holding on tightly even as it flew around, trying to throw them off. "I swear he's going to get us both killed," thought Satsuki before using a substitution jutsu to dodge Yamadron's flames. Gritting her teeth, Satsuki pulled out some ninja wire and rushed towards Yamadron, ducking under its tail when it spun around to strike her. While throwing the wire over it and grabbing it on the other side. With the Uchiha then jumping up onto Yamadron's body, wrapping the wire around its wings before jumping off and going under it. Weaving through its legs a few times, Satsuki then ran out in front of the capsule monster, smirking as it tried charging after her. Only for the dragon to trip over the ninja wire wrapped around its legs and went crashing to the ground. "This seemed to work before, so here's some more," Satsuki said before taking out some kunai with explosive tags and threw them into Yamadron's mouths before jumping back and detonating the tags to daze the dragon. "And hopefully this'll keep you down for a while. Fire style. Fire Dragon Jutsu," said Satsuki before putting the ends of the wire in her mouth before going through hand signs, unleashing a stream of fire that traveled along the wire and engulfed Yamadron's body. Though Satsuki's eyes widened in shock when Yamadron soon managed to stand up and broke free from the wires, roaring at her before unleashing jets of flames down at the Ravenet. With Satsuki quickly jumping out of the way and began running from the dragon chasing after her. "Naruto, whatever you're planning, do it faster," thought Satsuki, not sure what else she could do against Yamadron. While up in the sky, Naruto and his clones were busy placing explosive tags all over Kaiser Dragon's body, with it becoming more difficult as Kaiser Dragon managed to throw a few clones off. With the Uzumaki having had a few close calls if it wasn't for his clones grabbing him. "Okay, that should be enough," Naruto shouted before dispelling his clones, knowing he'll have to get really lucky for the rest of his plan to work. Looking down at the ground and where Yamadron was chasing Satsuki, Naruto gritted his teeth before climbing up towards Kaiser Dragon's head. Soon reached the dragon's head before the whiskered blonde prepared himself. "This is crazy, even for me," thought Naruto before moving down to look Kaiser Dragon directly in its eyes, with the dragon glaring at the Uzumaki. Before Naruto pulled his fist back and punched Kaiser Dragon right in its eye, causing the capsule monster to roar in pain and begin thrashing around in the air. With the whiskered blonde quickly punching the dragon's other eye, making it roar again at the pain in both its eyes. But before it could throw Naruto off, he jumped off of the dragon himself and began diving down straight towards Yamadron. Looking back up in the air, Naruto smirked at seeing Kaiser Dragon noticed he jumped off and was now div-bombing after him. Need to time this just right. Naruto thought, turning back towards the ground while holding his hand out at the ready. Satsuki. Naruto shouted as loudly as possible, hoping she'll hear him and be able to figure out what he's planning. Luckily, the Uchiha did hear him and looked up as she continued running from Yamadron, only to look in shock and disbelief at seeing Naruto diving out of the sky with Kaiser Dragon pursuing him. But Satsuki also realized what exactly he's planning, just barely spotting the explosive tags across Kaiser Dragon's body with her Sharingan. Along with how Naruto seemed to be aiming right for Yamadron with his hand held out. I swear if he survives this, I'm gonna kill him myself. Thought Satsuki as she pulled out a few more kunai with explosive tags. The Ravenet then threw the kunai at Yamadron's feet and triggered them, causing explosions in front of the dragon and destabilizing the ground underneath it. With it not doing much, if any, damage to the dragon, she did succeed in knocking it off balance. With Naruto being pleased at the sight of Yamadron standing still as he began closing the difference between them before he started forming a Rasengan in his hand. Knowing he'll be able to keep it stable for a few moments before it explodes. Rasengan. Yelled Naruto slamming the Rasengan into Yamadron's middle head, succeeding in making the dragon roar in the pain as it went crashing to the ground. Before he quickly jumped away from Yamadron, doing so just in time to avoid Kaiser Dragon unleashing a blast of fire at him, only to end up hitting Yamadron instead. The uzumaki landing beside Satsuki before making a hand sign. Boom. Naruto said with a smirk, detonating the explosive tags on Kaiser Dragon, engulfing the bronze dragon in multiple explosions. With Kaiser Dragon also being close enough to the canyon wall for the explosions to damage it, sending large chunks of the wall crashing on top of Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon. Both genin watching as the two dragons were buried underneath the rubble, making them smile that they won. Good plan, there. Satsuki said before smacking Naruto on the back of the head, sending him stumbling forward. Hey. What was that for? Demanded Naruto in annoyance while rubbing his head, only to recoil when Satsuki glared at him. For doing something that reckless and stupid. Jumping onto a dragon and then jumping off it. You're lucky Yamadron didn't fry you, or that Kaiser Dragon hadn't tried eating you. Said Satsuki, knowing it was a risky plan that could have easily gotten them killed. Well, it's not like anything else we did was working. And it did work, didn't it? Naruto retorted while crossing his arms. Maybe, but you still Satsuki said only to be cut off by the sound of shifting rocks, making the two freeze. Was that said Satsuki, not wanting to think it, only to hear more shifting rocks. They couldn't be Naruto said slowly while looking towards the pile of rubble, his eyes widening in disbelief to see it was actually moving. The Uzumaki and Uchiha instantly jumping back when the rubble suddenly exploded, revealing Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon with barely any scratches on them. With both dragons looking more angry than hurt at the attacks and being buried. Oh shit. Naruto muttered, not believing they were still alive even after that, before Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon roared at the two ninja. Run. Satsuki yelled as they started running as fast they could, away from the two dragons, knowing just how outmatched they were against them if they could shrug off those attacks. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Said Naruto, creating dozens of clones that all jumped up and stuck to the canyon walls before jumping down on top of Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon to weigh them down. With him and Satsuki pulling out multiple smoke bombs and throwing them back at the dragons, creating a large cloud of smoke between them. Fire style. Grand fireball jutsu. Said Satsuki going through hand signs and shooting a massive fireball at the dragons, hoping they'll be able to slow them down long enough to escape. Only for the dragons to charge right through the smoke and fireball, uncaring for the clones trying to stop them. Blown great explosion. Said Naruto, making a hand sign, causing all his shadow clones to suddenly explode on Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon, surprising Satsuki at the sight. Since when could you do that? And why haven't you done it before? Satsuki said, wondering why he's never used that jutsu. I learned it the same time I learned the shadow clone jutsu. And I've never used it because it seemed unnecessary when I had explosive tags. Naruto replied, having learned clone grade explosion from the Forbidden Scroll, since it had been listed alongside the shadow clone jutsu. He honestly only learned it because he thought it'd be cool to have exploding clones, but never really used since he's always had explosive tags. And any times he could have used it, he usually had allies around that could get caught in the explosions, given the number of clones he can make. Though now seemed like it'd be very useful to use it if it meant slowing down the two dragons that were currently chasing them. The two continued running, glancing back a few times to see the dragons still chasing after them, worrying Naruto and Satsuki that they'd eventually catch up. Before noticing they were reaching the end of the canyon, with Satsuki getting an idea. If we can block them in the canyon, it may give us time to escape or at least hide from them long enough for them to give up, said Satsuki, with a whiskered blonde nodding in agreement. Shadow clone jutsu, said Naruto, creating even more clones that ran ahead of them and got into position on the canyon walls. But Satsuki pulling out some kunai and explosive tags, throwing them at the dragon and detonating the tags to try and slow them down. Wanting to get some distance between them for when Naruto's clones collapsed the canyon walls. Both Genin, luckily, managed to reach the exit of the canyon, with Naruto signaling his clones to detonate with all of them exploding at once. Causing the canyon walls to begin collapsing behind them, much to their relief, only to frown since it also covered the riverbed. Making it even more difficult for them if they're ever going to be able to get the water flowing. That is if they ever find a way to take down those dragons. Unfortunately, they didn't have a chance to try escaping when a blast of fire destroyed the barricade, with Kaiser Dragon flying right through the explosion, much to their shock. With Naruto and Satsuki not stopping in their escape, knowing they really needed to get away. There. Satsuki said, seeing an opening in the ground that they may be able to get through and hide from Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon. And what if there's something down there too? Questioned Naruto, given the possibility of there being capsule monsters underground as well. Right now, anything is better than them, said Satsuki, pointing at the two dragons, with the Uzumaki being unable to argue with that before they ran towards the opening. The ninja just barely reaching it before diving in as Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon unleashed more flames that almost reached them. Naruto and Satsuki looked up in disbelief and relief at the flames that would have incinerated them. Before quickly falling silent as the ground shook from Yamadron while hearing Kaiser Dragon flying overhead as well. Waiting until they couldn't hear anything anymore, Naruto and Satsuki sighed in relief as they sat down against the wall. That was Naruto said, not believing how powerful just those two dragons were, the Ravenet nodding in agreement. Yeah. When the chief said capsule monsters are dangerous, I thought they'd just be dangerous to normal people. But even with our chakra and ninjutsu, we were barely able to even scratch them, let alone take them down. Said Satsuki, having thought all their previous enemies had been strong, but those dragons really were something else entirely. No kidding. And I have a feeling that those weren't the most powerful capsule monsters we'll end encountering, even among dragon type ones. Said Naruto, feeling like they got lucky in just facing the two dragons. Meaning that we'll most likely encounter far more dangerous capsule monsters, sooner or later. Wonderful, and knowing our luck, I won't be surprised if it's the former. Satsuki muttered, smacking her head against the wall. Both of them beginning to realize just how dangerous and powerful these capsule monsters can be. Though, Naruto soon noticing something out of the corner of his eye, looking in surprise to see a large roundish rock with a strange eye symbol on it. Satsuki, look. Naruto said, motioning to the rock, making Satsuki look only to be surprised at the sight of it. Is that a capsule? Said Satsuki in amazement at now seeing what a capsule looks like. I think it is. And the chief did say you just have to touch it to awaken the monster within. So I guess you should touch it. Said Naruto, surprising Satsuki again. You're letting me have it? Satsuki asked, having thought he'd want to get the first capsule they came across, but instead is letting her have it. Yeah, since we probably wouldn't have found it anyway if you hadn't spotted this opening, so you can take it. Naruto replied, making the Uchiha smile slightly and nod in thanks. Satsuki stood up and went over to the capsule before placing her hand on it, hoping that whatever was inside would be able to help them against Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon. Before they watched as the capsule began cracking open and emitting a bright light, making the genin squint as the capsule broke open, releasing the monster inside. Seeing the monster look to be a young man with tanned skin, spiky, swept-back red hair, and green eyes. With his attire consisting of a green and pink pinstriped uniform, metal armor covering his upper chest with green pauldrons with blue eye-like jewels on them, outlined in red, metal braces, and metal greaves with a tacked red metal boot and blue eye-like gems on his knees. With the monster also carrying a large curved sword with a golden hilt. Naruto and Satsuki looked at the capsule monster in amazement, not expecting there to be capsule monsters that looked human. With the monster then kneeling down in front of Satsuki, while their capsule shooters lit up again and a screen overlaid him. DD Warrior. Warrior. A young warrior who can slice open a seam in the dimensions. He traps the foe in the dimensional rift. Slice open dimensions. Think that'd be useful against the dragons? Naruto asked, looking at Satsuki, who frowned in thought. I'm not sure. A DD warrior, would you be able to assist us in taking down monsters called Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon? Questioned Satsuki, with DD warrior standing up and shaking his head, knowing he wasn't strong enough to face opponents like that. Damn. Well, if you can slice open seams in dimensions, would you be able to get us somewhere else? Satsuki asked, since even if he isn't a match for the dragons, it'd still be useful to have a monster that can teleport them. The warrior nodded in response before turning around and held his sword in front of him, running his hand along the flat edge, causing energy to swirl around the blade. Before the monster swung his blade through the air, creating a diagonal slash in midair with it splitting open, revealing a swirling portal. Now that'll definitely be useful, stated Satsuki, with Naruto nodding in agreement, knowing it'll be good for them to make quick escapes against more powerful capsule monsters or even teleport them away. Before the three jumped through the portal, with it closing itself behind them. Forest. Naruto, Satsuki, and DD warriors soon emerged from the portal, finding themselves within a large forest with equally large trees. Reminding the former two of the forests in the Land of Fire and the Forest of Death. Well, at least we're in a familiar terrain. Thanks DD warrior, return now. Satsuki said, holding her capsule shooter up at him, with DD warrior bowing before transforming into green energy that was absorbed into the capsule shooter. The Uchiha watching as the back of the capsule shooter opened up, revealing 3 slots for capsules, with one being inside. This is so strange, but also pretty cool, muttered Satsuki, grabbing the capsule and putting it on her belt. Yeah, we were able to escape, but we also didn't do anything to help the village, said Naruto with a frown, relieved they were still alive, but not liking they couldn't do anything to fix the drought, with Satsuki putting a hand on his shoulder. You saw how powerful those dragons were, we couldn't do anything against them, let alone get past them to find out what's causing the drought. If we want to help them, the best thing we can do is train and find more capsule monsters to fight them. Satsuki said, the whiskered blonde nodding in agreement. Before noticing that the forest they were in seemed to have a few capsules lying around them or stuck in the ground. Well, if it's capsules, I'd say we finally got lucky for once, stated Naruto, making Satsuki look around in surprise at the capsules before smirking. Looks like we did. Let's see what new monsters we awaken, replied Satsuki as they went over to the capsules. With Satsuki touching one of them, while Naruto touched 2, making it so they'd have 4 monsters between them and giving them a good starting amount. The capsules cracking open and glowing before they broke open, releasing the monsters inside. Both ninja being surprised at the monster they've awakened. Satsuki's monster resembling a crow with purple feathers and 3 legs, with the monster flying around before landing on Satsuki's shoulder. While the 2 monsters Naruto awakened were definitely a surprise for them to see. The first one resembled a large monstrous lion with brown fur across its body, a long black mane fur on its head, black fur around its wrists, ankles, and the end of its tail, solid yellow eyes, and a horn sprouting from its forehead. And the second looked like a large demon with rustic red skin, 4 arms long, black hair on its head, with strands going down to its chest, a long strip of hair in the center of its chest, going down to more hair that resembled underwear, black hair on its wrists and feet, white feathered wings sprouting from its back, and horns sprouting from the sides of its head. Whoa. Naruto said in surprise at his monsters, not only their appearance but their size as well, while nowhere near as big as Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon, they were still big. Before their capsule shooters once again began glowing as screens overlaid the 3 new monsters, revealing who they were. Gazelle, the king of mythical beasts. Beast. This monster moves so fast that it looks like an illusion to mortal eyes. It is said to have over 10,000 beasts under its command. Baphomet. Fiend. An immense being with huge wings that keep it aloft. The wings are said to be able to repel any wind. Yatagarasu. Fiend. This monster's size and speed has made it invaluable as a scout. It is said one attack can freeze opponents in place. Awesome. Welcome to the team, Gazelle, Baphomet. Naruto said, grinning at his capsule monsters, with Gazelle and Baphomet both bowing to their new master. You'll definitely be a great companion to have, stated Satsuki, petting Yatagarasu, the crow-like monster preening at the attention. However, their attention was soon taken when they started hearing the sound of loud buzzing in the air, causing Gazelle and Baphomet to growl and get ready for a fight. While Yatagarasu quickly flew up to the air to see what was happening. Do you see anything? Satsuki asked as she and Naruto looked around warily, while Yatagarasu cawed loudly before diving back down and flying above Satsuki. But the ninja and their monsters soon seeing what was making the sound when they saw a swarm of large bees flying straight at them. Much to Naruto's and Satsuki's shock at their size, before their capsule shooters activated and the screen appeared over them. Filler needle. Insect. A huge bee with exceptional strength that's particularly dangerous in a swarm. Damn, those things are huge. Baphomet, let's exterminate those bugs, Naruto said, with Baphomet roaring loudly before flying up into the sky towards the swarm of killer needles. You too, Yada. Help take those things down, said Satsuki, given if Yatagarasu could paralyze opponents with its attacks, then it'll definitely be useful, with Yatagarasu flying up after Baphomet. Baphomet roared as it began tearing through the killer needles with his forearms, either slicing them with his claws or grabbing the bees and ripping them apart. Only to growl as he began getting swarmed and stung by the bees, before swinging his claws wildly to keep them back and rip through them. Before Yatagarasu reached the swarm, speeding around the killer needles to either strike them with its beak or clawing at them with its talons. With each monster it struck suddenly being surrounded by a purple glow and freezing up before they began falling out of the sky. Allowing Baphomet a chance to break away from the swarm with some killer needles that were attacking being frozen. "Alright, your turn, Gazelle. Go after those killer needles that are frozen," said Naruto, seeing Gazelle would be able to get up to the swarm with the killer needles that were falling. But Gazelle roaring before leaping up high into the air towards the frozen bee-like capsule monsters, slashing right through one with its claws. Before using it as a springboard to leap up to the next frozen killer needle and grabbing it before biting its head off. The king of mythical beasts repeating this a few times, only for the killer needles to become unfrozen with Gazelle holding onto one that began to move again. So Yatagarasu doesn't permanently freeze enemies it strikes, they're only frozen for about 5 seconds. Still plenty of time to make a difference in a fight. Satsuki thought, having noticed how long the killer needles remained frozen from when they were struck by Yatagarasu. Before seeing how Gazelle was beginning to get overwhelmed by the killer needles, unable to let go of the one it was holding without falling to the ground. DD Warrior. Help Gazelle. Satsuki said, loading DD Warrior's capsule and fired it up into the sky, the warrior materializing with his sword drawn. DD Warrior giving a shout as he charged his sword with his power and swung it, unleashing a wave of energy that struck 3 killer needles, causing them to suddenly vanish. Before he grabbed onto Gazelle's mane and flipped on top of the killer needle it was holding. Stabbing his sword into the giant bee's body, with it beginning to fall to the ground, allowing Gazelle to safely let go and land on its feet. Well, DD Warrior jumped off the killer needle as it crashed. Naruto and Satsuki looked up at the main swarm, seeing how Baphomet and Yatagarasu were beginning to get overwhelmed by the killer needles. DD Warrior, open a portal above the swarm, said Satsuki, DD Warrior nodding before stabbing his sword into the ground and cutting open a portal, with one appearing above the killer needle swarm. Yada, get out of there now. Satsuki called out to her monster. You too, Baphomet. Shadow clone jutsu. Naruto said before creating a few clones and having them jump through the portal. But the clones falling out of the portal in the sky towards the swarm, which the killer needles began noticing and charged at the clones. Though the moment the clones were stung, they began exploding, taking out several killer needles at once. Allowing Baphomet and Yatagarasu the chance to fly back to the ground to rejoin their masters and allies. While the last of the clones had all exploded, with the killer needles now flying towards the portal after noticing it. Only for Satsuki to begin going through hand signs and held her wrist as lightning flared to life in her hand. Chidori, said Satsuki before jumping into the portal, thrusting her Chidori right through a killer needle, then another and another and another. Uchiha going through the swarm with her Sharingan activated, allowing her to quickly jump off of the bee monsters to avoid their stingers and drive her Chidori through them. Back on the ground, Naruto created 2 clones and had each of them begin helping him create a Rasengan in both hands. Baphomet, throw me. Naruto said once the Rasengan were formed, with Baphomet nodding before grabbing the uzumaki. The 4-armed monster flying up before spinning around and launching Naruto right at the swarm of killer needles. Rasengan barrage, said Naruto slamming one of the Rasengan into a killer needle, sending it spiraling away and crashing through several other monsters as well. Before slamming the other Rasengan into another killer needle, getting the same result, with a whiskered blonde then beginning to throw kunai with explosive tags at every killer needle he could. Well, Satsuki's Chidori soon vanished when she couldn't maintain it anymore, before making her way towards Naruto. Seeing the Ravenet approaching him, Naruto reached out and grabbed her, with Satsuki holding on as they began falling away from the swarm. Luckily being grabbed by Baphomet before they could hit the ground, with Naruto then making a hand sign, triggering the explosive tags. The Uzumaki and Uchiha seeing how they took out a large portion of the swarm before being relieved to see that the remaining killer needles decided to scatter then attack them again. Once they were safely back on the ground, Naruto and Satsuki leaned against a tree, panting lightly, having gotten tired from all the chakra they used. Both from fighting Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon, and now against the killer needle swarm. Thanks you two, you both did really great. Now take a rest for a while. Naruto said, holding his capsule shooter up, absorbing Gazelle and Baphomet, turning them into capsules. You two as well, thanks for the help, not get some rest. Said Satsuki, doing the same with DD Warrior and Yatagarasu, with the 2 ninjas sighing as they slid down to the ground. This world, it's definitely more dangerous than we thought. Those killer needles likely would have overrun us if they got close enough. Stated Naruto, with Satsuki nodding in agreement. Yeah. Even if they seemed easy to kill, their numbers alone make them extremely dangerous. I honestly don't want to imagine what the even more dangerous and powerful monsters could be like. Satsuki replied, knowing there's no telling what kind of capsule monsters are out there and how powerful they can become. At least we have some good ones to use. DD Warrior being able to teleport us, Yatagarasu could act as a scout and freeze opponents, Berfumit could carry us and fly, and Gazelle seems like it can move much faster than we could. So, now we at least have a much better fighting chance. Naruto stated, the Ravenet nodding at this. And now that we have capsule monsters of our own, we'll have the chance to fight and capture ones that are already awake. Allowing them the chance to grow stronger and for us to get more allies. Plus with the training we'll do, it'll give us the chance to be prepared to go back and take out Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon. Said Satsuki, Naruto nodding in agreement. Both of them now realizing just how dangerous this world is, but also now having a better chance at surviving. Knowing they'll be able to get stronger capsule monsters and train themselves as well, so that next time, they'll be ready. So, what did you think? Good. Yep, we see Naruto and Satsuki planning what to do first before deciding to investigate the drought going on in Haven Village as repayment for them helping the two ninja. Leading them to head upriver to find out what's causing the drought, only to be attacked by Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon. Both of them being far more dangerous and powerful than their dual monster counterparts due to them being actual monsters with no set power or defense. But Naruto and Satsuki soon being forced to retreat when nothing they do has any effect on the dragons, with them being barely able to escape and hide until they leave. We then see it beginning to sink in just how dangerous and powerful capsule monsters are before the two find their first capsule with Satsuki awakening the monster, which is revealed to be DD Warrior. Who while not powerful enough to fight the dragons, does have the ability to open portals allowing Naruto and Satsuki to teleport themselves to a forest. With them finding even more capsules to awaken, with them each getting 2 capsule monsters. Satsuki awakening Yatagarasu with the ability to freeze enemies it strikes for 5 seconds, while Naruto awakens Gazelle the king of mythical beasts and Berfumit, giving both Genin good starting capsule monsters. Finally we see them getting attacked by a swarm of killer needles, managing to fight them off with the help of their monsters. Along with really seeing just how dangerous the world is and that they'll need to find a lot more capsule monsters and train themselves to be ready for anything. So, for those that like the story, thanks for your support. For those that don't or at least don't like the direction taken, you're more than welcome to drop the story. But thanks for giving the story a chance anyway. Storm out. 5 days have passed since Naruto and Satsuki had been teleported to the forest by DD Warrior to escape Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon. With the two ninja having made sure to keep moving after the killer needle swarm attacked them, not wanting to risk staying in one spot for too long. Along with making sure to get training done, knowing they needed to get much stronger if they wanted to survive. They'd also trained alongside their capsule monsters, wanting to get better at fighting with them and wanting them to improve as well. Something they could sense the monsters seemed to enjoy, liking the chance at getting stronger. With it also helping whenever the Uzumaki and Uchiha would spar against them, wanting to get used to fighting capsule monsters as well. With Naruto and Satsuki currently in a clearing, training together while working on improving their taijutsu, ninjutsu, and physical abilities. The Ravenet also training with her Sharingan, wishing to master it to its peak and beyond it now that the ninjutsu has fully matured. With Naruto letting her work on casting Jinjutsu on his clones and track their movements as they moved around her. Naruto also had several clones randomly throwing weapons and attack them to work on their reaction time. Eventually, the two stopped and sat down to rest, having been training since the sun began rising, with it now being a little afternoon. So, what exactly should we do now? We've been getting stronger and we have our capsule monsters. But that doesn't mean we can just stay here and I don't think we're ready to try fighting Yamadron and Kaiser Dragon yet, especially if they're more prepared for us. Said Naruto, looking at Satsuki, wondering if she had ideas for their next move. Even, well the forest was familiar territory for them, with it helping that there was a good number of capsules scattered around, giving them a lot of options to choose from if they want more monsters. But that didn't mean they could stay here, since there were also plenty of capsule monsters here as well. Even worse for the ones lying in wait to ambush them, being able to hide in plain sight. Yeah. So far, we've just gotten lucky in being able to avoid or being spotted by any more capsule monsters, aside from those Trents. Satsuki said, with a whiskered blonde nodding in agreement. Both of them remembering how they'd been ambushed by a horde of capsule monsters called Trents, large sentient trees that could disguise themselves as regular trees. Though, luckily, despite being dangerous, they were still made entirely of wood. Making it easy for Satsuki to deal with them with her fire-style ninjutsu. It was a relief to know that despite capsule monsters being strong and dangerous, there were those that they could take down on their own. Along with them having obvious weaknesses, like being burned if they're sentient plants. But it did also set them further on edge at now having to be wary of the environment coming to life and attacking the more monsters that were hiding nearby. As for what to do, given that we've been walking through the forest for almost a week and so far haven't found an exit. The best thing to do is find a spot where we can set up a base camp. That way we'll have a permanent place to rest, one where we'll be able to set some traps and defenses. Said Satsuki, knowing that if they were going to be stuck in this forest any longer, then they'll need to find a more permanent spot to set up camp. That sounds good. Since a base camp will also give us a place to return at the end of the day, while we try to find a way out of here. I just hope that when we do find a way out, we'll find a place to rest and hopefully get some supplies. Said Naruto, with Satsuki nodding in agreement since they didn't have much on them to begin with when they arrived in this world. Have you thought of any new ideas? Asked Satsuki, turning to the Uzumaki as one other thing they've been doing is brainstorming ideas for new ninjutsu they could create. With how they both have a limited amount of ninjutsu and no way to try to learn more, they'd begun brainstorming ways to create new ones. Whether they be original jutsu or variations of ones that they already knew. Just a few. One idea that I had was seeing if I could find a way to make the Rasengan smaller, like being able to compress it so that rather than just grinding into something, it could penetrate whatever it hits. Another is trying to find a way to throw the Rasengan, either as the way it is or maybe shooting it as a beam of spiraling chakra. And I did think of finding a way to make the Rasengan even bigger. Maybe even find a way to make a giant Rasengan around me to act like a shield. Naruto explained, with Satsuki nodding at the ideas. Those are pretty good ideas. I had a few of my own, I got one from seeing Kakashi make that beam of lightning to cut through that wood dragon. I want to make a long-range Chidori like that, where I could shape it into a spear or sword that shoots out to stab enemies, maybe even a way where it could multiply into several beams once it stabs something to deal even more damage. Another one that I got was from when we were fighting Tobi, or whatever the hell his name is, when I used the Chidori on the water. I want to see if I can release the Chidori in every direction around me so it could hit multiple targets at once, along with even making the electricity run through the ground. And one other idea that I have is being able to shoot lightning from the Chidori, kind of like firing it as Senbon, since if I can do that with my Sharingan, it'd be a really effective attack. Said Satsuki, with Naruto smiling at hearing her ideas. You'll definitely have a lot of different attacks to use if you learn to do all of that. Not to mention, the fire style ninjutsu you know and can work with. Naruto stated, making Satsuki smile slightly. Thanks. And if you want, I can teach you the fire style ninjutsu I know, so that you'll be able to have a wider range of ninjutsu to use. Maybe you could even find a way to add fire chakra to the Rasengan. Satsuki offered, with the Uzumaki looking at her in surprise. I could add fire chakra to the Rasengan? Naruto asked, causing Satsuki to look at him with a raised brow. Yeah, since it's just shape transformation, molding your chakra into the shape of a sphere. It's likely you could add elemental chakra to it, making it stronger. Replied Satsuki, only to see Naruto looking at her in confusion. Didn't Jiraiya tell you about shape transformation and nature transformations? Questioned Satsuki, having assumed that after becoming the Toad Sannin's apprentice, Naruto would have learned all this. Then no pervy sage just taught me the summoning jutsu and the Rasengan. Muttered Naruto, looking down, given how Satsuki seemed to think he should know about this, with the Ravenet frowning at his words. Okay. Well, shape transformation is an advanced form of chakra control that involves controlling the form, movement, and potency of someone's chakra. The Rasengan is like that, shaping and molding your chakra into a sphere and maintaining the shape. Then there's nature transformation, which changes the nature of someone's chakra into an element, like with my fire style ninjutsu and the Chidori, my chakras changed from just energy into an element. Each person also has a specific elemental affinity, either wind, fire, water, earth, or lightning. I learned that I have a lightning affinity, in addition to the fire affinity that's common in most Uchiha during the month break for the Chunin exams. Along with having this all explained for me when Kakashi taught me the Chidori. Satsuki explained, with Naruto frowning at this new information. Oh. Muttered Naruto, not sure what to feel at how Kakashi taught Satsuki all of that, while neither Jiraiya even told him about shape transformation or nature transformation. Before looking at Satsuki when she put a hand on his shoulder and smiled kindly at him. This just means I'll be able to teach you about them myself, along with my fire style ninjutsu. But it also means you may have to start calling me Satsuki-sensei soon. Said Satsuki as her smile turned into a smirk, making Naruto snort in amusement and smile slightly. You wish. Naruto said, feeling a bit better from their banter. Though, we won't be able to find out what your own elemental affinity is, since we don't have any chakra paper, which reveals what affinity a person has. Satsuki added, with Naruto waving it off. That's fine, as long as I have more ninjutsu to use. And like you said, I can just find a way to add fire chakra to the Rasengan. Naruto replied, with Satsuki nodding in agreement before frowning. Speaking of the Rasengan, I think one thing you should focus on mastering it to the point where you can stabilize it with one hand before looking into making variations of the jutsu. Since it would be better for you to fully master it before looking into other ways it can be used. Said Satsuki, knowing it could end up costing Naruto if he relies on clones to create the Rasengan and ends up in a situation where he can't make one or it's dispelled. He's finished forming and stabilizing the jutsu. There's nothing wrong with using a clone to make the Rasengan, it's worked plenty of times before without any problems. Naruto said with a frown, feeling that his method of making the Rasengan is just fine. Yeah, against a lot of opponents that were either arrogant or by getting lucky and having enough time to make it. Stated Satsuki, given all the times she's seen Naruto use the Rasengan against someone, they were arrogant and didn't consider him a threat, or he was lucky to get time to make a clone to form the Rasengan. Oh, does that include you back at the hospital? Cause I had a Rasengan formed way before you made a Chidori. Retorted Naruto while crossing his arms, making the Ravenet scowl. You mean the fight I was winning, just like at the Valley of the End? Satsuki said in annoyance that he's now bringing up their fights. I only remember Kakashi-sensei stopping us before I won and you did give up at the Valley of the End. So that'd be 2 times I beat you. Naruto stated with a smirk. You're delusional. I had that fight won and I only stopped beating you at the Valley because it was just getting sad fighting someone who wouldn't fight back. And last I checked, you already admitted I'm stronger since I was able to get through Gaara's sand armor, along with cracking Aoi's sword and Daten's chakra armor. Which is the only reason you were able to defeat them. Satsuki retorted, reminding him that she's the reason he was able to win some of his previous fights. I never said you were stronger, just that you were strong. And last I checked, I beat Gaara and Shukaku, I also beat that bastard Kabuto. I'm also the one who actually took down Aoi and Daten and probably would have still won even without your help. Said Naruto as the two glared at each other before Satsuki smirked. You only beat Gaara and Shukaku after summoning a giant toad. Well, maybe you could have beaten Aoi on your own. Do you really think that you would have gotten past Odo's chakra armor like you did if I hadn't damaged its power core? Questioned Satsuki as their rivalry was now flaring up, full throttle. Oh yeah? Then prove it right now. We'll see which of us is stronger. Naruto said, refusing to back down, determined to show Satsuki he could beat her on his own. Are you sure? I wouldn't want to damage your ego, I know upset you get when you get a boo-boo. Satsuki said in a mocking baby voice, making the whiskered blonde scowl. Yeah, and you'll see I don't need anyone's help to win a fight. Especially against you. Said Naruto, with Satsuki's smirk growing. Okay, we'll fight and we'll have a bet. If I win, then you'll have to concede and train to master the Rasengan until you can use it one-handed. But if you win, I'll drop the issue and let you continue using it as is. Said Satsuki, with Naruto frowning at this before nodding. Fine, you have a deal. Naruto said, eager to prove he is stronger and show her there's no problem in how he uses the Rasengan. You didn't let me finish. There'll also be a few rules, one being that you'll need to be able to form a Rasengan within 5 minutes, if you fail to do so, then I'll win the bet. I'll also only be able to use Taijutsu and Gyukujutsu. Well, you aren't allowed spam shadow clones to distract me or hold me back, you can only use one shadow clone at a time to try and form a Rasengan, since this is to prove that you can effectively use it against a proper opponent. Satsuki said, making Naruto's frown deepen and feel a little worried, before he soon nodded. Then get ready to lose in 3 minutes. Said Naruto, refusing to back down even with the restrictions. We'll see. Said Satsuki with a smirk before the two moved to stand across from each other. The two genin stared each other down for a few moments, waiting to see who'll make the first move before Satsuki soon charged at Naruto. With the Ravenet pulling out 2 handfuls of shuriken, launching one handful straight at Naruto while the other she threw to the side. Well, the sight of the shuriken coming at him made Naruto quickly jump back. Shadow, Naruto said, instinctively making a hand sign, only to stop himself in time before pulling out a kunai and deflecting the shuriken when they got close to him. Not even a minute and you almost disqualify yourself. Please don't make it too easy for me. Satsuki said tauntingly, making the Uzumaki scowl before he instantly dropped to the ground, avoiding the other shuriken Satsuki threw that curved through the air towards him. But Satsuki taking the chance to rush towards Naruto before jumping into the air to deliver a diving kick to his head. Only for the whiskered blonde to get up and raise his arms, blocking her kick before grabbing her ankle and spun her around in the air. Doing this for a few moments until Naruto released Satsuki, sending her flying back towards a tree. Shadow clone jutsu. Said Naruto, acting quickly, and created a single clone before they began working on creating a Rasengan. While the Ravenet flipped through the air, placing her feet on the tree before kicking off it, launching herself back at Naruto and his clone. Pulling out a kunai in the process, Satsuki narrowed her eyes before throwing it straight at the clone as she saw the Rasengan began to form. knowing it wouldn't be able to get out of the way during the time in between when the Rasengan is forming. With her kunai going straight through the clone's head, destroying it, with the unfinished Rasengan immediately exploding, throwing Naruto back. The Uchiha then flipped in the air, slamming her feet into Naruto once she was close enough, only for Naruto to vanish in a puff of smoke and be replaced with a log. Using a substitution. Satsuki said, looking around for where Naruto could be hiding. You didn't say anything about not using the other jutsu, I know. Called out Naruto, with Satsuki grunting since she had to give him that. Maybe. But are you really going to hide the entire time just to win by default? Said Satsuki while subtly taking out a few more shuriken. You also didn't say anything about not just hiding while I make the Rasengan, just as long as I make it. Looks like I win. Naruto said tauntingly, not seeing Satsuki smirking as she was able to lock onto where his voice was coming from. Before Satsuki threw her shuriken through the air, watching them curve around and through the trees, where she soon heard a pop as Naruto quickly jumped out from his hiding spot. Only to grunt in pain when Satsuki rushed him, delivering a spin kick to his back before she pinned him to the ground with her knee pressed against his back. Don't forget, I know your tricks. Satsuki stated, having learned from their past fights and their time as teammates to know how Naruto fights and what he does to get the time needed to make a Rasengan. And I know all yours. Retorted Naruto before throwing his head back, slamming it into Satsuki's, making the Uchiha grunt at the sudden hit. But this giving Naruto the chance to throw her off of him and jump back while throwing a few kunai at Satsuki to keep her at a distance. While Satsuki landed on her feet and threw her own kunai that collided against Naruto's, the Uzumaki's eyes widened when he saw more kunai appear. She hid them. Naruto thought, realizing Satsuki had thrown more kunai than he thought and hid them in each other's shadows before he jumped out of the way of the kunai. Only for this to be a mistake as Satsuki threw more shuriken at him before quickly running around in the direction he jumped in. Shadow Clo, said Naruto, about to create more shadow clones to block the shuriken and keep Satsuki from reaching him before stopping himself and mentally cursing. Acting quickly, Naruto instead pulled out a kunai and began deflecting the shuriken, managing to land on the ground safely. Only to turn and block Satsuki's own kunai, with the two ninja pushing against each other. Before the Ravenette's hand shot out and grabbed Naruto's wrist, with Naruto grabbing hers as well with his other hand to stop her from trying anything. But this proving to be a mistake as Satsuki flipped her body to slam her foot into his head, with Naruto just barely dodging the kick. Before the whiskered blonde let go of Satsuki and moved back, flipping around to slam his foot into Satsuki's chin, dazing the Uchiha and knocking her back. Now's my chance. Naruto thought before making a single clone to start forming a Rasengan. Only to be shocked when it was instantly destroyed by a kunai thrown at it, with Satsuki smirking at her friend Crush. You'll need to do better than that. Stated Satsuki, having moved her head back enough to avoid his kick while still making it look like she was hit and dazed. Naruto scowled in annoyance at this before running at Satsuki and throwing a punch at her, with Satsuki sidestepping the attack. With her then jumping up to avoid Naruto's following attempt to kick her legs out from under her. Though the Ravenette was a little surprised when Naruto lashed out and grabbed her arm before pulling her in close and headbutting her, making Satsuki grunt as she fell to the ground. But the Uzumaki not stopping there as he grabbed Satsuki by her ankles, throwing her up into the air as high as he could. Satsuki shook her head from the previous hit before pulling out a few kunai, throwing two of them at Naruto, forcing him to move out of the way. Only for Satsuki throw two more kunai that collided against the first two, making them spin through the air towards Naruto again, surprising him at her aiming. Moving out of the way again of the kunai coming at him, Naruto's eyes widened when he heard several shuriken cutting through the air. Looking only to see multiple shuriken rushing at him from all sides, spotting a few that had ninja wire attached to them. Acting fast, Naruto used a substitution to get out of the way of the shuriken, relieved that he did so after seeing the log he switched with getting wrapped up. Only to soon grunt when Satsuki, after landing on the ground and charging him, lifted her leg up and slammed it into his chin, knocking Naruto up into the air. With Satsuki jumping after him, getting up behind the Uzumaki. Why don't you just give up already? We both know I'm gonna win. Taunted Satsuki, making Naruto grit his teeth and twist his body around to punch her. Only for Satsuki to block the punch before striking him in the back with her knee, pushing Naruto higher up into the air as she continued following after him. You know what's coming next. Satsuki said with a smirk, before smashing her foot into his side pushing him higher into the air. Yeah, me kicking your ass. Shadow CL damned. Shouted Naruto, cursing that he nearly created several shadow clones again. That's another thing we'll really need to work on. Thought Satsuki, seeing how instinctive it is for Naruto to just spam shadow clones in a fight, knowing he'd be in trouble should he ever find himself in a situation where he can't use the jutsu. Before the Uchiha shook her head as she grabbed Naruto's arm to flip over and get above, spinning in the air before bringing her leg down on his chest. Lion's Barrage. Satsuki said as Naruto went crashing to the ground, only to be replaced by a log as he used a substitution again. Though having expected this, Satsuki released a barrage of shuriken all around her into the trees and everywhere else Naruto could be hiding. Unable to resist the urge to smirk when she heard a familiar pop, followed by an explosion as Naruto was thrown out of one of the trees and crashed into the ground. Walking up to her friend Crush, Satsuki's smirk grew as she crouched down and looked at him, with Naruto stubbornly looking anywhere but her. I now believe that time's up and you have yet to create a successful Rasengan. So, I win. Satsuki stated, the whiskered blonde muttered to himself before reluctantly nodding. Fine you win. Said Naruto, not liking that he lost the spar and the bet before seeing Satsuki offering him a hand which he accepted as she pulled him up. Don't get all pouty. You'll thank me for this later when you're able to make the Rasengan on your own and even faster than you could with a clone. Said Satsuki, knowing he'll be able to fight much better once he's able to make a Rasengan on his own. And how am I supposed to start doing that? Since my chakra control is the main reason I can't make it on my own, I don't have the control to keep the Rasengan stable. Naruto said, only for Satsuki to pick up one of the kunai on the ground. Before she then placed the sharp end on her fingertip and let go, with Naruto being surprised to see the kunai remaining perfectly balanced, even when Satsuki started moving her hand around. This is another chakra control exercise that Kakashi taught me along with water walking while I was learning the Chidori, it's called kunai balancing. To perform it, you need to channel the right amount of chakra into a single point on your finger to make the kunai stick to it. But not just your finger, but into the kunai as well to keep it balanced, otherwise you'll just have a kunai stuck to your finger and swinging around. You also need to be careful with it, since if you use too little chakra, then the kunai will end stabbing your finger, if not cut off by it. But if you use too much then the kunai will end being launched away, which is a hazard in of itself. Explained Satsuki before thrusting her hand up a little, sending the kunai into the before she caught it by the handle. It's also apparently a really difficult chakra control exercise to get down, being a high Jumnin level exercise taught in Anbu. Satsuki said, with Naruto frowning as he took the kunai. And Kakashi taught you that in water walking, along with about shape transformation and nature transformation. Naruto muttered, seeing there were a lot of things Kakashi taught Satsuki during the month break, things he never tried teaching him or Sakura after the exams. Hey, don't be like that, you're still learning it. Besides, I'm probably better at explaining everything to you, anyway, since you aren't that good at listening to anyone else besides me. Said Satsuki with a smirk, making Naruto roll his eyes as he's now sporting a small smirk of his own. Sorry, what was that? Naruto asked mockingly, only for the Ravenet to smack him on the arm. But seriously, thank you Satsuki. It's nice to actually have things explained rather than just getting basic instructions and then told to figure everything else out, myself. Naruto said, since anything he learned from Kakashi or Jiraiya, they only gave the bare basics of instructions, and that's it. No problem, I'm glad I could help. Now we should probably get out of this clearing. After that spar, we might have attracted some unwanted attention and we need to rest after our training and sparring matches. Satsuki said, with the Uzumaki nodding in agreement since their sparring could have gotten the attention of any nearby capsule monsters. Yeah. But I am gonna get started on kunai balancing once we've rested. Replied Naruto, wanting to get started on improving his chakra control as soon as possible so he could that much closer to using the Rasengan one-handed. Unfortunately, before Naruto and Satsuki could leave, they tensed up when they felt the ground start rumbling. Before the two genin immediately jumped out of the way when some large smashed through the trees, charging right at them. With the Uzumaki and Uchiha looking, only for their eyes to widen when they saw 5 capsule monsters in front of them. The first and largest one resembled a giant beetle with a dark purple carapace and a large horn emerging from its head and solid yellow eyes. 3 of the capsule monsters were the same creature, resembling bipedal bugs wearing armor on their chests and knees with wings that resembled capes while wielding swords and shields. And the final monster resembled a bipedal cockroach with parts of its carapace being green and resembling armor, along with carrying a sword and shield like the other 3 insects. Naruto and Satsuki held up their capsule shooters as screens appeared, overlapping all the capsule monsters and displaying information about them. Hercules beetle. Insect. A massive beetle with a tough carapace and a dangerous horn. Insect knight. Insect. Of all insect fighters, he is the paragon of the indestructible insect invaders, which only the elite of the elite can join. Cockroach knight. Insect. A gigantic cockroach that is equipped with a sword and armor. It can show up anywhere from shadows and confined spaces. Great more bugs. Is this entire forest infested with them? Naruto said in annoyance while grabbing gazelles and burr from its capsules, with Satsuki doing the same with DD Warrior and Yatagarasu. If it is, then let's start exterminating. Let's go DD Warrior and Yatagarasu. said Satsuki, loading the capsules before firing them. You too, Gazelle and Baphomet, said Naruto, releasing his monsters as well. With Hercules Beetle letting out a roar before charging forward at the two ninja, only for Gazelle to appear right in front of the insect monster. Letting out a roar of its own as it lunged at Hercules Beetle, the two monsters slamming into each other. Only for Hercules Beetle to start pushing Gazelle back until Baphomet flew down and slammed its fists into Hercules Beetle. The Insect Knights and Cockroach Knight all began clicking furiously before rushing Naruto and Satsuki with surprising speed. Before DD Warrior and Yadagarasu appeared, with DD Warrior blocking Cockroach Knight's sword with his own and push it back. While Yadagarasu let out a cry, flying under one of the Insect Knight's swords and striking it with its claws, only for the Insect Knight to block it with its shield. Naruto and Satsuki though pulled out some kunai, blocking the remaining two Insect Knight swords, only to be surprised that they were stronger than they looked. They're pretty strong for a bug, Naruto said before managing to push the Insect Knight sword back far enough, giving him a chance to slam his foot into the monster, knocking it back. Shadow Clone Jutsu, said Naruto, creating 6 clones, not wanting to waste too much chakra by creating too many clones before they all charge the Insect Knight. While Satsuki was struggling against her Insect Knight, with the monster slowly pushing its sword closer to her. Before the Ravenet suddenly pulled her kunai back and spun around the Insect Knight, avoiding its sword and making it stumble from the loss of the leverage. With Satsuki then dropping down and kicking her leg out, knocking the capsule monster's legs out from under it. Fire style. Dragon Fire Jutsu, said Satsuki, going through hand signs before unleashing a stream of fire at the Insect Knight to incinerate it. Only for the Insect Knight's wings to come out, catching itself in the air before raising its shield to block the flames. Before it surprised the Uchiha when flew straight through the flames at her, Satsuki not having time to react as she grunted when the Insect Knight slammed its shield in her. With Satsuki luckily bending backwards to avoid the monster's sword swung at her. Meanwhile, Gazelle and Baphomet were having trouble with Hercules Beetle, with the king of mythical beasts struggling to hold the insect monster in place. While Baphomet punched it as hard as it could with its forearms, only for Hercules Beetle's carapace to prove very durable. Before suddenly Hercules Beetle let out a roar and reared back, throwing Baphomet off of it, the fiend managing to catch itself in the air. With Gazelle being flung around as it held onto Hercules Beetle, the beast monster roared as it began slashing its claws across Hercules Beetle. Only for its attacks to have no effect before finding itself finally thrown off of the insect. Gazelle growled as it crashed into a tree, though had to jump out of the way when Hercules Beetle charged at it, only to crash right through the tree. Baphomet took the chance to fly in close and grab the tree as it was falling down, lifting it up into the air before slamming it down on top of Hercules Beetle. The four-armed monster repeated this a few times, hoping to crush the insect. Only to suddenly the tree being held in place, with Hercules Beetle standing up on 4 of its legs while digging its front pincers into the tree. The two monsters both pulled on the tree to rip it away from the other monster before Hercules Beetle noticing Gazelle leaping at it. With Hercules Beetle stopping its pulling and instead swung the tree around, with Baphomet not expecting the change in momentum, losing its grip on the tree. While the insect monster slammed the tree right into Gazelle, knocking the beast monster back. Before then throwing the tree at Baphomet, knocking it out of the air and pinning the fiend to the ground with it. While DD Warrior and Yadagarasu were working together against Cockroach Knight and their Insect Knight. The two insect monsters being surprisingly fast and agile enough to block Yadagarasu from striking and freezing them. Leaving the fiend monster to instead act as a distraction against them for DD Warrior. Yadagarasu let out a cry as it flew high up into the air before divabooming Insect Knight when it tried striking DD Warrior in the back while he was fighting Cockroach Knight. With Insect Knight stopping and raising its shield to block Yadagarasu while DD Warrior gave a quick glance back at the insect monster. Seeing they were close enough, DD Warrior jumped back away from Cockroach Knight before kicking his leg back, slamming it into Insect Knight, knocking it back. Insect Knight flipped through the air before releasing its wings and rushed straight at DD Warrior. Only for Yadagarasu to charge it, which Insect Knight was prepared for, raising its shield to block Yadagarasu again. Before it then immediately pulled its shield back and slammed it into Yadagarasu, knocking the bird-like monster back through the air. DD Warrior went to go help his comrade before being forced to duck underneath Cockroach Knight's shield when it tried bashing it into his head. With DD Warrior then raising his sword to block Cockroach Knight's blade, gritting his teeth as it pushed down against him. Before he was forced to raise one of his hands, blocking Insect Knight's sword as well, now having trouble in blocking both monsters' weapons. Luckily, with Cockroach Knight and Insect Knight now focused on him, Yadagarasu had managed to recover from the strike from the latter. With the fiend monster now seeing its chance, flying straight at Cockroach Knight and raked its claws across the insect monster's face, freezing it. While DD Warrior felt the pressure from Cockroach Knight vanish as the monster was frozen. Betting his chance, DD Warrior swung his sword at Insect Knight, forcing it to fly back to avoid being sliced. Only to let out several pain-filled clicking noises as DD Warrior's sword managed to slice through one of its wings, with the insect monster being forced back to the ground. Before it then swung its sword, keeping Yatagarasu back when it rushed to freeze it as well. The fiend monster quickly flying around the insect monster, keeping its attention on him while looking for a moment to strike it. While DD Warrior turned back towards Cockroach Knight and held his sword, rushing the monster to finish it off. Though Cockroach Knight became freed from Yatagarasu's paralysis and raised its shield at the last second, blocking DD Warrior's sword. Swinging its own sword at the warrior monster, forcing DD Warrior to jump back as Cockroach Knight charged after him. With Naruto, the Uzumaki was finding himself in trouble when his own Insect Knight made short work of his clones and now wasn't giving him a chance to try and make more. The whiskered blonde jumped back with Insect Knight following after him while hovering above the ground, which made it even faster. Naruto pulled out several shuriken and threw them straight at Insect Knight, only for the monster to swing its shield deflecting the shuriken. Before Insect Knight threw its shield at Naruto, surprising the whiskered blonde before he grunted when the shield slammed right into his head. Only to gasp when Insect Knight took the chance and rushed to Uzumaki, driving its sword straight through Naruto's chest. Though rather than dying, Naruto vanished in a puff of smoke with Insect Knight finding its sword stuck inside a log. Clicking in annoyance, Insect Knight tried dislodging its sword from the log, only to suddenly slam its face into the ground when a foot smashed into the back of its head. With Naruto then flipping over the insect monster, uppercutting it when it lifted its head. But before Naruto could continue attacking the monster, Insect Knight lifted its sword, still stuck in the log, and swung it at him. Forcing Naruto to jump back to avoid getting hit by the log, with the swing being strong enough to free Insect Knight's sword. Insect Knight then grabbed its shield from the ground and charged at Naruto again, with the Uzumaki doing the same while pulling out a kunai. Their weapons clashing against each other, before Naruto quickly sidestepped Insect Knight's shield when it tried bashing him. Before Naruto then jumped into air and kicked off of the monster's shield, smirking at Insect Knight as he did so. Boom. Naruto said, triggering the explosive tag he slapped onto Insect Knight's shield when he dodged it. But the explosion sending Insect Knight flying back and crashing into a tree with a pain cry, the Uzumaki then taking the chance to make a clone and start forming a Rasengan. Only to see Insect Knight recovered from the explosion and impact faster than he expected and was now flying right at him. Okay, Satsuki does have a point, I really do need to master this. Naruto thought, admitting Satsuki was right and he really needed to master the Rasengan to the point where he can perform it with one hand. Luckily he managed to create a Rasengan just before Insect Knight reached him, with his clone jumping in front of him, taking the hit from the monster. This also providing Naruto some cover from the resulting smoke, with a whiskered blonde jumping up into the air above Insect Knight. Rasengan. Naruto shouted, thrusting the Rasengan down towards Insect Knight as the smoke cleared. Insect Knight's eyes widened at the attack coming towards it, before raising its shield to block it, with Naruto slamming the Rasengan into the shield. With the shield showing surprising durability as it withstood the Rasengan before it started cracking. Until with a final push, Insect Knight was sent crashing into the ground from the force of the Rasengan, kicking up a large dust cloud. Though Naruto gagged when Insect Knight slammed its partially broken shield into his stomach from the dust cloud, before grunting as he barely dodged being sliced by the monster's sword. The Uzumaki instantly jumping back as Insect Knight got up, its wings now looking bent and broken, glaring at him before charging Naruto again. Satsuki, meanwhile, was having her own difficulties against the third Insect Knight, with the monster having remained up in the air during their entire fight. Making it easy for it to dodge any of Satsuki's attacks, while getting in close to strike her before flying back up into the air. With the Uchiha, though, being able to also dodge and block its attacks thanks to her Sharingan. But was unable to counterattack before it flew back into the air. Fire style. Phoenix Age Fire Jutsu. Satsuki said, going through a series of hand signs before unleashing multiple fireballs that moved wildly through the air towards Insect Knight. But the monster weaving through the fireballs as it made its way towards Satsuki again, before the Ravenet began throwing multiple shuriken at Insect Knights. The insect monster once again weaving through the projectiles, before noticing something glinting in the air. Realizing too late that Satsuki attached wires to the shuriken, before yanking them right back at Insect Knight. Insect Knight quickly turned around and raised his shield, barely managed to succeed in blocking the shuriken as they came at him, with a few embedding themselves in his shield. Got you now. Fire style. Dragon Fire Jutsu. Said Satsuki putting the ends of the wire in her mouth before releasing a stream of fire along them, rushing towards the shuriken still in Insect Knight's shield. Seeing this, Insect Knight dropped his shield, saving itself from the flames hitting it, while also flying right at Satsuki. The Uchiha's eyes widening at this, before Insect Knight closed the distance between them and brought its sword down on her, slicing Satsuki in half. only for Satsuki to vanish and be replaced with a log as she used a substitution jutsu. While Satsuki jumped into the air, out of a tree behind Insect Knight, going through hand signs and inhaling deeply. Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu. Satsuki said, unleashing a massive fireball right at Insect Knight to incinerate the monster. The Ravenet watched as Insect Knight was seemingly consumed by the fireball, only to see it fly up into the air, looking scorched on some parts of its body, as it then charged at her. With Satsuki taking a kunai with an explosive tag before waiting until the moment before throwing it as Insect Knight. Boom. Satsuki said as she jumped back, while the insect monster was blown back from the explosion. Landing on the ground, Satsuki suddenly felt Naruto right behind her, before the Uzumaki grabbed her hand and spun her around. With the Uchiha seeing his own Insect Knight coming at them and realized at what he was doing. Once Insect Knight was close enough, Satsuki slammed her foot into its head, knocking it back. These things are a lot tougher than they look. Stated Naruto, with Satsuki nodding in agreement seeing how the capsule monsters seemed able to take a lot of damage. Yeah, and it doesn't even look like Hercules Beetle is taking any damage at all. Satsuki replied, glancing at Baphomet and Gazelle fighting Hercules Beetle, with the insect monster barely even having a few scratches on its carapace. With Naruto looking at his monsters fight as well, frowning in worry at how tired they looked to be getting, before getting an idea of how they could end this fight. And what if it was on our side, instead? Naruto said, looking at Satsuki, who looked at him before smirking. Using a bug to squish a few more bugs. I like it. Said Satsuki, with Naruto nodding in agreement. Before the two ninja ran towards Hercules Beetle, while also seeing both Insect Knights had recovered and were now chasing after them. Looking at each other, Naruto and Satsuki nodded as they got an idea of what to do, with the Uchiha going through hand signs before holding her wrist. Gazelle. Baphomet. Naruto shouted, getting his monster's attention, seeing their master and his companion running at them with two Insect Knights behind them. Getting an idea of what they were doing, the beast and fiend monsters broke off from Hercules Beetle and ran at Naruto and Satsuki. With Hercules Beetle charging after them, refusing to let them escape it, the sight making Naruto and Satsuki smirk. Waiting until the last moment, Naruto dropped and skidded across the ground, with Gazelle leaping over him and tackling one Insect Knight to the ground. While Baphomet flew over Satsuki, grabbing the second insect monster and slammed it into the ground before dragging it through the ground. Chidori. Satsuki said, rushing at Hercules Beetle before spinning around it as it tried to ram into her before she slashed into its side with her Chidori, making the large beetle monster cry out in pain. My turn. Said Naruto, jumping up and forming an unstable Rasengan, which he thrust forward right into Hercules Beetle's face. Rasengan. Naruto said slamming the Rasengan into Hercules Beetle, with the unstable attack exploding and sending the monster skidding back. Okay, now, capture. Said Satsuki, aiming her capsule shooter at Hercules Beetle, not really knowing how exactly they're supposed to capture monsters. Only for a green energy beam to shoot out of the capsule shooter and hit Hercules Beetle, covering it in energy. The insect monster struggling to break free from the green energy field until Hercules Beetle went still before transforming into red energy that was sucked into the capsule shooter. With the back opening up as a new capsule shot out with Satsuki catching it. Okay, so that's how you capture them. Satsuki stated, looking over her new capsule monster before loading it back into the capsule shooter. Hercule Beetle, let's crush some bugs. Said Satsuki, releasing Hercules Beetle. With Hercules Beetle emerging and running across the ground with a roar, charging towards its now former allies. The sight getting Gazelle's and Baphomet's attention before tossing their insect knights at Hercules Beetle, who smashed right through them with ease. BD Warrior, Yadagarasu. Get out of the way. Satsuki called out, seeing her other monsters were still fighting the remaining Insect Knight and Cockroach Knight. The call getting the warrior and fiend monsters' attention before they saw Hercules Beetle charging at them, though felt it was now bonded to their master. With it also getting Insect Knights and Cockroach Knight's attention, leaving them open as Yadagarasu struck Insect Knight freezing it. While DD Warrior gave a sweeping kick to Cockroach Knight's legs, knocking it to the ground. Before the two got out of the way, with Hercules Beetle continuing to charge forward, crushing the third Insect Knight before slamming right into Cockroach Knight, sending it smashing into a tree. Though Cockroach Knight managed to survive, while struggling to get up, only to see it was no outnumbered. Knowing it couldn't stay and fight, Cockroach Knight quickly ran as fast as it could into the forest, with Naruto's and Satsuki's capsule monsters about to pursue it. Stop, let it go. We already won the fight and it'd be pointless chasing after one monster, especially if it'd only end up with us getting attacked by more capsule monsters. Besides, you all did good enough. Said Naruto, smiling at his monsters, knowing that while they didn't do much damage to Hercules Beetle, they still put up a good fight. Naruto's right. You've all done more than enough. And thanks for the help, Hercules Beetle. Satsuki said, patting her new capsule monster, the insect monster clicking its mandibles while feeling the developing bond between them. Naruto and Satsuki then returned their capsule monsters to their capsules before they began panting in exhaustion from the fighting, combined with their spar and training. "We should probably get out of here, just in case," Satsuki stated, given even if Cockroach Knight alone wasn't a threat, there's no telling if it was going to get back up or if more monsters were attracted by the fight. "Yeah, better to get far away from this spot as quickly as we can," said Naruto in agreement before the two genin quickly left the clearing. Though, not before taking a moment to take the swords of the fallen insect knights as spoils of war. Later with Cockroach Knight. Though unknown to Naruto and Satsuki, the insect monsters hadn't attacked them randomly, instead having been sent to deal with them. Due to them having unknowingly intruded on their territory, with Hercules Beetle, Cockroach Knight and the insect knights having been sent to eliminate the intruders by their queen. With Cockroach Knight having stumbled through the forest before arriving at a large cave that it entered. The deeper it went into the cave, the more webs the insect monster began seeing, until it emerged into a large cavern covered in webs before kneeling down. The monster then looking up to see a giant monster, even bigger than Hercules Beetle, descending from the ceiling. The monster possessed a massive red and blue thorax with red armored plating that hid wings, a smaller front body with 6 long yellow legs emerging from its sides with blue plating along them, and its head being humanoid in shape with blue compound eyes and fangs poking out of their mouths. This was Insect Queen, the leader of the insect monsters within the forest, and the one who sent the capsule monsters after Naruto and Satsuki. "Ah, my darling Cockroach Knight. Tell me, have the intruders been dealt with?" Insect Queen asked, eager to learn the intruders in her hive's territory were gone. Only for Cockroach Knight to make several clicking sounds as it told her what happened, with Insect Queen's eyes widening before she scowled and roared in anger. "They have killed my children and enslaved another. They will pay for this transgression with their lives," screamed Insect Queen, angered to learn her insect knights were dead and Hercules Beetle has been captured. Before she let out another roar, calling on more of her children, with 3 monsters soon bursting out from the ground. The first resembled a black and red massive centipede. While the remaining 2 were the same monster and also large centipedes, but smaller than the first one, being black and brown, while also having human-like arms near their heads. Doomdozer. 100-footed horrors. Find these human that have dared intrude on our territory, killed my children, and enslaved another, and kill them. Kill them and devour what's left. Insect Queen ordered. But the 3 monsters roaring before burrowing back underground to do as the queen commanded and find the intruders. "So, what did you think? Good. Yep, we see Naruto and Satsuki have been busy training themselves and their capsule monsters, as well as thinking over new ideas for ninjutsu. Which leads to Satsuki telling Naruto about shape transformation and nature transformation, as well as offering to teach him her fire-style ninjutsu and how he could add fire chakra to the Rasengan. Only to then tell him he should work on mastering the Rasengan to use it with one hand, with Naruto being stubborn over continuing to use it with a clone, leading to their rivalry flaring up until Satsuki makes a bet. With Naruto needing to be able to make a Rasengan within 5 minutes, while only making a single clone at a time, and Satsuki uses only Bukijutsu and Taijutsu. But Satsuki being able to win, while also seeing another weakness in Naruto's fighting style with how instinctive it is for him to span shadow clones, before she shows him an exercise to get started on improving his chakra control. Before we see them getting ambushed by a Hercules Beetle, 3 insect knights, and a Cockroach Knight, with it being a tough battle due to them being exhausted from their training and sparring, while Hercules Beetle proves difficult to fight due to its armor and strength. Though Satsuki manages to capture it, allowing them to take out the insect knights, while Cockroach Knight escapes. Finally we see the reason the insect monsters attacked is due to Naruto and Satsuki unknowingly intruding on their territory, with Cockroach Knight reporting back to their leader Insect Queen. With Insect Queen being angered to learn what's happened before sending a Doomdozer and 200-footed horrors to deal with Naruto and Satsuki. So, for those that like the story, thanks for your support. For those that don't or at least don't like the direction taken, you're more than welcome to drop the story. But thanks for giving the story a chance anyway. After leaving the clearing, Naruto and Satsuki didn't stop for anything else, wanting to try and find a location where they could set up their base camp. While making sure they kept moving, not wanting to risk being attacked by more capsule monsters in their current state. Though they also kept an eye out for any capsules to awaken, knowing they needed to build up their numbers. The encounter with the insects showing them that while their capsule monsters are strong, they could still be overpowered by more powerful monsters, greater numbers, or both. "Hey, up there," Satsuki said, stopping when she caught sight of a capsule up in a tree, with Naruto raising a brow at how it could have gotten up there. "You can really find these things anywhere, can't you?" stated Naruto before jumping up into the tree and touching the capsule, causing it to start cracking and emitting light. until the capsule burst open, revealing the monster inside with it lunging out of the tree and onto the ground, with Naruto following after it before the two saw what the monster was. Seeing the monster look like a bipedal wolf creature with pitch black fur that made it blend in with the shadows, long claws on its hands and feet, as well as glowing, solid crimson-colored eyes. With it wearing metal bracers on its arms and legs, matching pauldrons with claw-like extensions emerging from them, a red loincloth, a large brown metal collar around its neck with upturned brown spikes lining it, and a brown cloak with ragged edges hanging from the back of the collar. But the monster also wielding a black and red sword with only half a crossguard that resembled a wing. The monster let out a loud howl, while Naruto's and Satsuki's capsule shooters lit up and the screens appeared over the monster. Pitch black werewolf. Beast warrior. The monster that is trained relentlessly to become the ultimate hunter, remaining undetected within the shadows before striking. Its howl is known to strike fear within the hearts of even the bravest monsters. Wow, you must really be a strong monster. Naruto said, looking at pitch black werewolf, who growled before kneeling before its new master. Well, if it's trained to become a hunter, that must mean it's also good at tracking and getting the lay of the land, along with knowing when monsters are close. Maybe werewolf can help us find a place where we can set up base camp, said Satsuki, with Naruto nodding in agreement. Okay werewolf, do you think you could scout ahead of us and find a good spot where we could set up a base camp? Some place without any monsters nearby and one that'll be easily defendable, or at least be hidden in, said Naruto, with werewolf growling and nodding in response before leaping into the trees, surprising the genin at how quickly it could disappear. These things definitely aren't kidding when it said werewolf can be undetected in the shadows. Satsuki said in amazement, seeing how werewolf barely made a sound when it jumped into the trees before simply disappearing. Yeah, it'll be a good monster to have for sneak attacks and tracking, while also looking strong enough to more than hold its own in an open battle. Maybe you could release Yatagarasu to scout out a spot from the air too, or at least warn us of any monsters that may be close by. Naruto suggested, believing it'd be a good idea to have two monsters helping them from the ground and the air. Good idea. Come out, Yatagarasu, said Satsuki, loading the capsule before firing it, releasing Yatagarasu into the air with the crow-like monster, letting out a caw and flying down in front of Satsuki. Yada, can you fly in the air above us and see if you can find a good spot for a base camp, along with letting us know if you spot any monsters nearby? Satsuki said, with Yatagarasu nodding before it flew up into the air and began looking around. The Uzumaki and Uchiha then continued on their way, pleased at the added assistance in finding a spot for a base camp, knowing it'll be easier with pitch black werewolf and Yatagarasu. Though Satsuki stumbled when she tripped on something sticking out of the ground, with Naruto catching her before she fell. You alright? Naruto asked, wondering if she's more exhausted than he thought. Yeah, I'm fine. Just didn't see that, said Satsuki, only to stop when she saw the object she tripped over was actually a capsule, buried in the ground. They really are everywhere. Satsuki stated before crouching down and touching it, causing the capsule to begin cracking open, releasing a bright light. But the light soon fading and revealing the capsule monster that Satsuki had released, only for them to be surprised when they saw it. The capsule monster looked like a young girl's, with Naruto and Satsuki guessing that she looked to be around 8 or 9 years old. The girl had pale skin, snow-white hair that flared out in the back and covered the right side of her face, and wide purple eyes. With her attire consisting of a blue bodysuit with attached boots and a studded blue collar, a long white tunic over it that was split at the sides, blue designs, and pointed shoulder pads, white gloves, and a large white wizard's hat with a blue crest and jewel on the front. Along with wielding a short white and blue scepter, with the top part resembling a crescent moon with a blue jewel resting in it and white crown piece on top of it and another blue jewel at the bottom of the scepter. Naruto and Satsuki were surprised at the sight, as while they knew monsters could look like humans, they didn't expect one to look like a child. Before their capsule shooters lit up and the screens appeared over the monster. Silent magician. Spellcaster. The magician that had begun her training at a young age, possessing a great potential and power that she will one day unlock. Hello there, master. Silent magician said before bowing to Satsuki, surprising the two genin again. You can talk? Questioned Satsuki, not expecting monsters could talk as well. Why yes, I can talk. Though I can be quiet, if you want. Silent magician said shyly, only for them to shake their heads. No, it's not that, you can talk if you want to. We're just surprised since any other monsters we've encountered or awakened haven't talked. Can all monsters talk? Naruto asked, wondering if any of their monsters could speak. And not all monsters can speak. Us usually just the ones that look humanoid, as well as the stronger and older ones. Though some monsters still prefer remaining silent, letting their actions speak for them, instead. Replied Silent Magician, with Naruto and Satsuki nodding at this. Well, welcome to the team, Silent Magician. And if you have anything you ever want to say or ask, then don't be afraid to, after all, we're a team now. Satsuki said, smiling at the young spellcaster, surprising Silent Magician before smiled and nodded. Oh okay, thank you, Master. Silent Magician said before Satsuki shook her head. Don't call me Master, just Satsuki is fine, alright. Oh, and this is Naruto, Satsuki said while gesturing to Naruto when she introduced him, not wanting her monsters, if they can talk, to call her master since they weren't her slaves. Okay, Ma Satsuki. Said Silent Magician, correcting herself before she said master again. Hey Silent Magician, could you tell us more about capsule monsters? Naruto asked, looking at the white-haired girl, with Satsuki doing the same, since this would be a good chance to get more information about capsule monsters. Even they'd be getting the information straight from a monster, allowing them to fill in any blanks they had or clarify on anything they already knew. Oh. Yeah, I could tell you more about capsule monsters. Silent Magician replied, eager to tell them anything they wanted to know, before blushing in embarrassment when Satsuki patted her on the head. Glad to hear it. One thing we wanted to know was what exactly is it with monsters turning into capsules? We heard that it's like a hibernative state where you're asleep. Is that true or is there more to it? Asked Satsuki. It is true that when we enter our capsule forms is when we're asleep for long periods of time, which is usually after we tire ourselves out and need to recover our energy. But it's also a state we go into when we're heavily injured and need to heal, allowing us to conserve our energy and direct it towards healing ourselves. That's why, sometimes, you'll find capsules in pretty strange or out-of-the-way locations. Explained Silent Magician, with Naruto and Satsuki nodding at this. That makes sense and explains why we've seen some capsule in places you wouldn't normally look for them in. Naruto stated, with Silent Magician nodding in agreement. Yeah, monsters will usually try to find isolated locations to hibernate in to avoid being disturbed or attack. Though there are also some monsters that just prefer being alone and remaining in their capsule forms to avoiding fighting or doing anything, really. Silent Magician said, having encountered a few monsters like that before. Sounds like Shikamaru. Naruto and Satsuki thought, being reminded of the lazy Nara heir who'd likely do the same thing, finding some place where no one could disturb him and simply sleep forever, if he could get away with it. What about you, Silent Magician? It says you're a spellcaster capsule monster, what kind of magic can you do? Satsuki asked, curious of what kind of magic Silent Magician can do. I can do lots of different magic. Like putting up barriers that can block or redirect attacks, heal allies, tracking, and blasting enemies. Replied Silent Magician smiling happily at what she can do, making the Uzumaki and Uchiha smile as well. You must be really strong then, if you can do all that. Stated Satsuki, causing Silent Magician to blush in embarrassment. I guess, but I still have a lot to learn, and sometimes my spells don't always work the way I want them to. Silent Magician admitted, knowing she wasn't the strongest spellcaster around and still had a long way to go. Hey, don't worry about it. I'm sure you're still strong no matter what and you'll be able to get even stronger with us. Naruto said, smiling at Silent Magician and patting her on the head, making her blush again. Alright. Said Silent Magician, eager to show her new master and her companion that even if she's young, she's still a powerful magician. Later. Naruto, Satsuki and Silent Magician had continued walking through the woods, with the two genin asking the latter more questions about capsule monsters and what she could do. Though it wasn't long before Warwolf and Yatagarasu returned, having found a place to set a base camp. With the two monsters leading them through the forest towards it until they soon arrived at the edge of a swampland. Well, I definitely wasn't expecting to find a swamp here. Naruto stated after they returned their capsule monsters and looked out over the swamp, with Satsuki nodding in agreement. Yeah, I'm guessing that this is a part of the forest that gets a rather large amount of rain, more often, as well as having a good number of rivers and lakes that go through here. Meaning that this is probably a good area to set up a base camp since it'll help hide our scent and tracks from potential predators. Said Satsuki, knowing the swamp would be a good spot to have a base camp. The Uzumaki then picked up a rock and threw it into the murky water, with neither of them able to see it hitting the bottom. It also looks like the water's pretty deep, so that'll discourage any monsters and predators that can't swim and slow down the ones that'd try chasing us through it. Along with being able to hide under the water. Said Naruto, with the Ravenet nodding in agreement again. Though, suddenly, they felt the ground starting to shake underneath them, with the shaking growing more and more intense the longer it went on, making Naruto and Satsuki tense at the feeling. Before slowly looking back into the forest then at each other, both of them knowing it wasn't just an earthquake. Make sure you inhale as deeply as you can. Satsuki said, knowing they'll need to dive into the water and likely stay underneath for a while until they're sure whatever's coming isn't still chasing them. Nodding in response, Naruto took a deep breath with Satsuki doing the same before the two dived into the water, going beneath the surface as they began swimming away. With Doom Dozer and the 100-footed horrors bursting out of the ground not long after. The insect monsters roaring in annoyance at no longer being able to see their targets, nor could they feel them walking across the ground or track their scent with their antennae. Both 100-footed horrors looked at Doom Dozer, growling and clicking questioningly, wondering if they should try patrolling around the swamp to see if the humans will try leaving. Only for Doom Dozer to shake its head, knowing that their size would make it difficult for them to traverse the wet and muddy terrain. With the lead monster then roaring as they burrowed back underground and made their way back to the hive. Knowing they wouldn't be able to track their targets any further and would need to report to Insect Queen. Later. It wasn't long before Doom Dozer and the 100-footed horrors returned to the hive and reported to Insect Queen of what happened and how they lost their targets in the swampland. How annoying, with the humans in the swamp, they could find a way to escape entirely with all the rivers and lakes leading to various different locations. Not to mention, the monsters residing within there could get them before we do. Insect Queen hissed, refusing to let the humans try and escape or let any other capsule monsters kill them first. Before Insect Queen let out a loud screech that echoed throughout the hive until she heard the sound of wings and monsters jumping across the ground. With it not long as 8 monsters appeared before her, 4 flying down and the other 4 jumping to stand beside them. The 4 flying monsters were all the same, resembling large mutant flies with green and brown bodies, long brown thoraxes, 4 skinny arms, 2 on each side, 4 wings on their backs, and orange compound eyes. All the 4 monsters that had been jumping around resembled large bipedal mantises with brownish-green legs, chests, and heads, the lower halves of their torsos being blue, purple arms that ended in razor-sharp side-like blades, and red compound eyes. Flying Kamakiri number 1s. Kamakiriman. Go to the swamplands and search them to find any sign of those 2 humans. Insect Queen ordered, with the flying Kamakiris and Kamakiriman bowing to their queen before they took off for the swamplands. Doom Dozer, 100-footed horrors, you 3 will remain on standby. Observe and patrol the outskirts of the swamplands should those humans try to leave the area. Said Insect Queen, wanting to ensure that the humans won't be able to escape. But Naruto and Satsuki. Meanwhile, Naruto and Satsuki had remained underwater and swam deeper into the swamplands, wanting to make sure whatever had been chasing them hadn't followed them. As well as wanting to get as far away from it as possible. Before the two eventually stopped and looked at each other, before Satsuki pointed up to the surface, with Naruto nodding in agreement. The two feeling they'd gotten far enough away from whatever had been shaking the ground, doubting if it had followed them, it'd still be able to find them. Unfortunately, before they could start swimming back up to the surface, they were sent spiraling through the water when something big swam past them. The whiskered blonde and Ravenet quickly regained their composure and swam closer to each other, looking around warily for what was in the water with them. Only to have a hard time seeing anything through the murky water. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he looked forward before they widened when he saw something very large swimming right at them. Acting quickly, Naruto grabbed Satsuki and pushed them out of the way, just in time as they saw the large monster inches away from them, barely missing being devoured by it. Along with getting a good look at it, with how close the monster was. Seeing it was a massive and very long fish creature with 2 horns coming out on either side of its mouth, pale green-yellow eyes with slit pupils, and multicolored scales. Having green scales on its head, then turquoise-colored scales, then blue, followed by purple, with red being next and orange being the last color, as well as having yellow-colored tail fins. But the close proximity also letting their capsule shooters register the monster's presence and light up to scan it as the screens appeared. 7-colored fish. Fish. A rare rainbow fish that has never been caught by mortal man. Looking around for 7-colored fish, only to see it had vanished into the murky water again, Naruto and Satsuki began swimming away as quickly as possible. Knowing if they tried swimming up to the surface, it'd only make it easier for the monster to devour them. The 2 ninja made sure to keep looking around for any sign of the fish monster, not wanting to get caught off guard again and risk being eaten by it. With Satsuki also having her Sharingan activated to hopefully get an early warning if she sees 7-colored fish. Before the Uchiha's eyes widened and she quickly grabbed Naruto and pulled him down lower into the water. Just in time as the monster came surging in front of them and passed overhead. However, Naruto and Satsuki grunted when 7-colored fish's tails slammed into them, sending them crashing into a rock. Both have luckily managed to avoid opening their mouths and lose what little air they had left. Knowing they couldn't waste any more time, Naruto and Satsuki swam as fast as they could to escape 7-colored fish so they could get back to the surface. Though when they looked back and saw the fish monster pursuing them again, both genin pushed themselves to swim even faster. Only for 7-colored fish to quickly close the distance, opening its mouth to swallow Naruto and Satsuki whole. with neither of them being able to muster the energy to escape, beginning to feel lightheaded from the dwindling oxygen. But just before the monster could eat them, the Uzumaki and Uchiha were shocked when something even bigger suddenly lunged up from the water and wrapped around seven-colored fish's body. Seeing the new monster was much larger and longer, being long enough to wrap all around seven-colored fish, having red scales going across its entire body, dark purple stripes running along its body, two long purple fins emerging from its chin, as well as what looked like purple fur and dark green and black eyes. Naruto and Satsuki looked at the bigger fish monster in shock before their capsule shooters lit up and the screens appeared over it. Giant red sea snake. The Qua. A sea-dwelling snake that attacks passing enemies with its sharp teeth. Not wanting to waste another moment or risk giant red sea snake turning towards them after it was finished with seven-colored fish. Naruto and Satsuki began swimming again while fighting through their lightheadedness, knowing they can't pass out now. Thankfully, it seemed luck was on their side as they soon saw a spot where they could break through to the surface, with neither genin wasting any time and swam straight up. Bursting out of the water gasping for air before they swam over to the shore and pulled themselves out of the water. How can monsters that big be in a swamp? Naruto said while gasping for air, wondering how two monsters that big could be in the swamplands. The swamp is probably connected to the ocean or something. There could also be underwater caverns they can either reside in or travel through. Like this, replied Satsuki, looking around and seeing that they hadn't broken through the surface of the water above ground and instead ended up wandering into an underground cave. Realizing that while they were being chased by seven-colored fish, they must have ended up swimming into an underwater cavern and were now in a cave. Oh, great. Now we're stuck in here, since if we go back in the water, we'll likely be the sea snake's next meal. Said Naruto in annoyance that they were now basically trapped. Maybe not. If this cave isn't flooded, that means it should at least be close to the surface, either close enough to where we could eventually find an exit or where we can open up one, ourselves. Satsuki said, making the Uzumaki frown before nodding in agreement since it'd be better than being fish food. Though Naruto's eyes widened in shock and blushed brightly when he saw Satsuki began taking off her clothes, removing her belt and capsule shooter before pulling her sweatshirt off, revealing she wasn't wearing a shirt underneath and exposing her bra. Followed by her shoes and stockings, then her shorts and skirts. With Naruto gulping, though managed to remain calm given how he'd already seen her in her underwear before. Only to be further shocked when Satsuki unclipped her bra and slid it off, making the whiskered blonde immediately turn around with his entire face being bright red. What are you doing? Naruto said in disbelief that she's getting completely naked, with Satsuki looking at him with a raised brow as she took off her bra and then pulled down her panties. I'm getting out of my wet clothes so I don't get sick and so they can be dried off. You should do the same since wearing wet clothes will only be a hindrance, both from the fact they'll weigh you down and make you sick from wearing them for too long. So, start taking them off. Said Satsuki while pulling out some ninja wire to hang their clothes from to dry. It wasn't a commonly known fact, given how she was regarded as one of the strongest and brightest kunoichi of their generation. But, while the Uchiha massacre did motivate Satsuki to push past her limits and learn all that she can about being a kunoichi to one day avenge them, the loss of her family and clan, combined with her disregard to things that wouldn't help her grow as a ninja, had left her rather stunted in other areas. Leading to her either being ignorant or outright disregarding certain social norms and taboos. One of which being a sense of shame and decency when someone saw her naked or in her underwear at the very least. Especially with how a kunoichi's deadliest weapon is their body, which is a major reason why a good number of them wore outfits that were either revealing or highlighted their sex appeal, since it allowed them to distract their enemies in battle and seduce to either extract information or assassinate their targets. So, Satsuki didn't really see the point of getting flustered if someone saw her with little to no clothes on, if it aided in her effectiveness as a ninja. That's fine. I'm F55 fine. Do don't really get SC sick anyway. Naruto stuttered, embarrassed at the fact Satsuki's now most likely naked, but she wants him to get undressed as well. Don't think like the pervert. 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 Naruto thought, while forcing himself to think about anything else besides him and Satsuki being naked together. Seriously? You're doing this again? We already saw each other in our underwear. Just get undressed so we can get moving to explore this cave. Satsuki said in exasperation, wondering why he thought it was such a big deal if they were both naked. I'm fine really, said Naruto, only to yelp when Satsuki suddenly tackled and pinned him to the ground. Stop being a baby. Just get undressed so we can go. Said Satsuki, refusing to have Naruto waste any more time and will take his clothes off, herself, if he won't do it. No, I said I'm fine, stop. Naruto said, struggling to get Satsuki off of him, only for the ravenet to grab his wrists as he flailed his arms around and pinned him to the ground before tying them with some ninja wire. "It's for your own good, now stop moving otherwise this'll take longer," Satsuki said, pulling his boots off before grabbing his pants and began pulling them off as well. Only to grunt when Naruto kicked her in the face as she was pulling them off, knocking Satsuki off of him and giving Naruto a chance to get up. "You're crazy. I'm not getting undressed, leave me Al," said Naruto before falling to the ground when he tripped on his pants, before yelping when he felt himself being pulled backward and then feeling his pants being taken off. Before the Uzumaki could try escaping again, Satsuki turned him over before straddling his waist, with Naruto's blush returning at seeing the ravenet's naked body over him. Only to gulp when he saw that Satsuki was glaring at him with her Sharingan. "Okay, no more games. You've got two choices, Uzumaki, either you take your clothes off yourself or I'll tie you up and finish doing it myself," said Satsuki, making Naruto gulp and shiver, though he wasn't sure if it was from fear or something else. Oh okay, I'll do I'd. Naruto replied, not wanting to tempt Satsuki into following through with her threat. Satsuki narrowed her eyes at him, searching for any sign of it being a trick for him to try escaping again, before she untied his hands. Only to then immediately start pulling his jacket off, making Naruto begin struggling again. "I said I'd do it. Stop," said Naruto in embarrassment as she pulled his jacket off and then grabbed his shirt. "Nope. You had your chance to do it yourself already and I don't trust you to not try running again. So we're doing it my way," said Satsuki, refusing to take any chances. With Naruto struggling the entire time as Satsuki worked to remove his shirt but eventually succeeded in pulling it off. Leaving the only thing left being his boxers, the ravenet having an easier time getting them off than his pants, while keeping her distance from Naruto's attempts to kick her. "See? That wasn't so hard now was it?" Satsuki said with a smirk while gathering up their clothes and began hanging them on the ninja wire she set up, while Naruto glared at her in annoyance, unable to resist taking in the sight of her naked body. "You're crazy," Naruto stated, making Satsuki roll her eyes as she glanced back at him. "And you were being unreasonable. Honestly, I said it before, you turn into a naked girl all the time with your sexy jutsu. Our clothes were wet, we needed to take them off to not get sick and let them dry, it's pretty simple," said Satsuki, while noticing Naruto not so subtly looking at her, making her feel some pride at how he couldn't take his eyes off her. "He looks really good without anything too," Satsuki thought, being more subtle as she looked Naruto up and down, activating her Sharingan a few times to further memorize the sight. Once their clothes were hung up, Naruto and Satsuki strapped on their belts, capsule shooters and weapon pouches, along with grabbing the swords they took from the insect knights. "We're really running low on weapons, aren't we?" said Naruto, looking through his weapons pouch with a frown, seeing they didn't have many left, with Satsuki nodding in agreement. "Yeah, so it's a good thing we took these swords, since we'll need to start using our kunai and shuriken sparingly, as there's no telling if or when we'll find a weapons shop that sells them or anyone that knows how to make them. And we'll need to make sure we still have some kunai for you to learn kunai balancing," Satsuki said, knowing they'll need to be careful when using their weapons. "Now let's get going and see what's in this cave and how far it goes. With any lucky, we'll find an alternative exit out of here," stated Satsuki, the whiskered blonde nodding in agreement before utilizing the first two exercises of the Rasengan to carve a spiral mark into the cave wall. "We should mark the tunnel so we can find our way back, as there's no telling if we'll find any branching paths we could get lost in," Naruto said, making Satsuki nod in agreement before coating her hand in lightning chakra before carving an X into the cave wall, near her. The two genin then began making their way through the cave, hoping it'll lead them to an exit and ready for anything that may be down here with them. "So, what did you think? Good. Yep, we see Naruto and Satsuki awakening Pitch Black Werewolf and Silent Magician respectively, with Naruto sending Werewolf out to try and find a spot for them to set up a base camp, Satsuki doing the same with Yatagarasu. Along with them being surprised Silent Magician can't speak, not expecting to find capsule monsters that can talk, though also take the chance to ask her some questions about capsule monsters and herself. Then we see them arriving at a swampland, which they know will be a good place to set up a base camp in to hide their scents and tracks. Only for them to then have to quickly dive into the water to escape Doom Dozer and the 100-footed horrors, much to their annoyance before they return to Insect Queen to report. With Insect Queen being annoyed at the chance they'll escape or be killed by other monsters, leading her to send several flying Kamakiri No. 1s and Kamakirimen to search the swamp for them. Finally, back with Naruto and Satsuki, they're attacked by a 7-colored fish and nearly devoured but are saved by a giant red sea snake, allowing them the chance to escape. Only for them to then end up in an underground cavern, having been unable to see where they were going in the swamp water, but are thankful they got away. Before Satsuki then strips out of all her clothes to let them dry, along with revealing just why she's unfazed at stripping down in front of Naruto, before she then has to take Naruto's clothes off as well when he refuses, much to his annoyance and embarrassment. With the two then leaving to explore the cave and hopefully find a way out while marking their path to avoid getting lost. So, for those that like the story, thanks for your support. For those that don't or at least don't like the direction taken, you're more than welcome to drop the story. But thanks for giving the story a chance anyway. What if Yugioh watches over Naruto Uzumaki end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.